Okay, Archana, I think we can
Yes, sir.
get going.
Yes, sir. Very good morning to everybody present here. I welcome you all to the HTIC Healthcare Conclave. Now, I would now welcome Mr. Muthu Singaram, CEO, ITM HTIC Medtech Incubator, to give away the opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Archana. It is so delightful to see so many of you, especially when we're having such trying times, not only in India, everywhere in the world. It is so heartwarming to see so many of you make an effort to come this morning. And among us, we've had so many of us also have been affected by COVID and so on. Even our good friend, Dr. Manish, the one supposed to be here with us, unfortunately, is struggling with COVID. I just exchanged message this morning. He says it's better today. So we wish him well, and he always a great supporter to all the Bionas Incubator, not only to ours. He's been very instrumental ever since he came into BIRAC. So we will greatly miss him because ever since he came, we started the cluster, and today one of the things we're doing is to get Tamilnadu cluster website going, and unfortunately he's not been able to with us. Another person who's here, and I say thank you very much, is Poini. She's just recovered from COVID. This morning she called me and said, no, I'm not missing, I'm coming to your event. So thank you, Poini, and great to see you well. And another speaker of ours also on the final panel is in quite a bad shape. We wish him also well, Vikash. So I had to change some of the activities last evening to just make sure we have a quick, smooth run this morning. There are 2 extra speakers that agreed to go on the final panel at the last minute, just to make sure we have the right number of panels. So I really thank all my friends from all the bioincubators, not only in Tamil Nadu, from all over the country who have come this morning to be with us. And I'm not going to take too much time because Dr. Mukherjee has got also an emergency. His wife is just suspect, so he has to go back to check her out. So I'm going to let him start off. So I hand it back to Archana, and Archana can take it from there. And Dr. Mohan, sorry, you'll have to speak only after that. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would now invite Dr. Shishanthu Mukherjee, Mission Director, Grand Challenges India, jointly supported by DBT BIRAC and BMGF Welcome Trust, to address the gathering. We're very happy to have you here, sir, and thank you for kindly accepting our invitation at the last minute. We're very happy, as BIRAC always been a great support to HTIC in all the event we do, and we're very happy to have you here. So over to you.
Thank you, and thanks, Professor Mohan, Professor Muthu, and all the incubator heads from Tamil Nadu, as well as I could see a lot of familiar faces from around the India, or all BIRAC partners, for this HTIC Medtech Incubator initiated today's HTIC Healthcare Conclave. On behalf, I'm stepping in, as you rightly said, Professor Muthu, that I'm stepping in for my colleague, Dr. Manish, who has some health emergencies with him. So I bring greetings to all of you and good wishes in these challenging times from the Chairperson BIRAC, Dr. Renu Saroop, MD BIRAC, Madam Manju Bhalla, my colleague Manish, and all my colleagues, Chaya, I could see in Chaya, to all of you. May these challenging times are overcome as fast as possible. So, and I'm delighted to be here, a part of this healthcare conclave today. And BIRAC has been really catalyzing to create these network of incubators around India, because BIRAC, if you see, being a funding agency, we also call ourselves enabling agency in India. Though 60 to 70% of our work is funding, but if you see our mandate and our structure, we enable innovation from the very grassroots level. And enabling cannot be possible without you all. The network of incubators, 55 plus around country, which I think Chaya will talk to you about, has established, and has really been the created that enabling ecosystem in this country. And without these enabling ecosystem, you can't take innovations to a level. You can't take grassroots innovation to a level where it can, cross the valley of death and get exploited and can create the impact for which that innovation has been created. So BIRAC, as we all know, has been an enabler and will continue to be an enabler, not only through funding, but other supports, like we provide very strong IP support to our innovation system innovators, then the regulatory support, helping them to connect with other funders. We have funds of funds, we have joint funds of funds. And if you see Biorac's fund portfolio also, we start from pre-proof of concept funding till the product commercialization. And then post-product commercialization, we link you all to, the GEM portals, the how to market it, we help you to validate it. So I think these are all enabling mechanisms which Biораc has created. Now, the incubation system which Biораc has created has been one of the important elements. And without, that is we call it farming of innovations. And these incubator systems have really farmed innovations for us. Because when we fund 100 projects, 5 to 7 projects, and I think all you are experts from all the incubation centers will vouch with me that 5 to 7% innovations cross the value of death and can create the impact for which it has been intended to. So I think these incubators really play as our farming grounds, or we farm innovations, and then we pluck these good innovations which have a strong proof of concept and can really jump that valley of death. But of course, with enabling support of funding and other enabling support, which I described to you earlier, to take it to a level where it can be. And without you all, because you are the incubation network is a network which really catch holds the young innovators, the innovators from academics, from the startup cultures, which join you and you create that. And as you know, coming to healthcare, if you see Biorac's portfolio funding, more than 50%, I think Kaya tells me it should be around 60%. Our funding is targeted towards healthcare domain, and that is very, very important. To deliver affordable, accessible healthcare in India and beyond. And that is the reason why that has really cropped up, especially in the Medtech device spaces, which has been because Medtech device innovations are, very, very can move fast, and we have a strong Medtech innovation ecosystem in India. And thanks to, organizations and networks like HTIC and other incubators which Biораc has supported, and they have really created that enabling space for us to really scale up and identify good medtech innovations to take it to the level. In the present context also, the medtech, the healthcare innovations has gained very important space, because as you know, well, in last January, February, March, when the COVID really started, we were struggling to get ventilators, we were struggling to get PPE kits, we were struggling to get scanning thermometers, we were struggling oxygen meters, sanitizers, and a lot of other related equipments which are needed. Forget about drug discovery or diagnostics or vaccines, which were there, which was really, we started supporting that. So I think that was a big gap. We really used to depend on somebody else to import, but now, and thanks to, again, I'm very delighted to report that our startup culture, in which Biораc really enabled, really supported that. So, and now if you see, we are self-sufficient in PPEs, we are self-sufficient in thermal scanners, we are self-sufficient in ventilators. We have, and thanks to our startups and incubators like you, who have really supported those spaces. And Biораc really worked from almost beginning of March, and we launched a couple of programs really to support that. The fast track call, which Biораc ran through IKP, was really helping innovators to move very, very fast in taking the funds were distributed fast, and we have a lot of products now into the market which are being used in COVID management. The COVID consortium, along the 5 verticals which Biораc launched, with vaccines, drug discovery, therapeutics, any other interventions, and diagnostics, were really pushed innovations. We did 2 COVID consortium calls, and we have almost supported 30 vaccine candidates through our mission COVID Suraksha, as well as the COVID consortium calls. We supported a couple of drug discovery program, new drug programs, then also the diagnostics. So they really this was, again, this enabled because of our startups who really came forward to do a quick turnaround time. They were all, especially in diagnostic and medical devices, it was all 5 to 6 months project, because we needed the solutions faster. So I think they rose to this occasion and really brought this to this funding is one of the elements, but if our startups, if they had that zeal, they worked overtime in the challenging, there was a lockdown, so getting equipments and getting raw materials was a challenge, so it was all enabled, and they worked around those challenges, and now we have a couple of very good innovations which are really being used to manage the pandemic. So I think our incubators, our startup community needs a big thumbs up for rising to this occasion to generate these types of support mechanism to support support the pandemic and helping in patient care, and these elements really helped us. Our national biopharma mission, which right now I am managing along with my colleague Dr. P.K. Sharma, national biopharma mission really supported development of vaccine candidates, and that was a big program. This is supported by World Bank, and along with COVID Suraksha, which the Honorable Finance Minister announced in the budget as was launched in November earlier. One part of it was really supporting vaccine candidates from which needs phase 3 clinical trial, also the candidates which needs augmentation. So if you're really following the newspaper, we really announced right now the support of increase of Covaxin to about 500 to 700 million doses of units of Covaxin to be increased per month, so that it can really cater to, as the 1st of May our vaccines will be available to almost up from 18 onwards. So looking at that, then we are really augmenting other Indian immunologicals in Hyderabad. We are supporting to augment. They will be helping to manufacture Covaxin. Similarly, BIPCOL, DBT by public sector will be. So I think all these programs really, the COVID Suraksha is supporting to build this up. The Tamilnadu cluster, which I think needs to be really appreciated, I think, and thanks to the leadership provided by the HTIC to build that Tamilnadu cluster. BIRAC has formed around 7 regional clusters based on geographical locations of incubation centers, and this helps in building collaborations and peer-to-peer learnings. That is very important. I must not be knowing everything in the business of the game, but my other colleague or my other incubator colleague knows it. So I think this peer-to-peer learning between incubators needs to be really catalyzed and initiated, so that we all work together for a common goal to support our startup culture, to our startups to take it up to a next level. So I think peer-to-peer learning, some are good at clinical side, some are good at the medical devices side. So I think if these collaborations are created, collaborative learning is very important, and I think that is what good initiative. And I'm delighted today that one of the most active, as we're regularly doing lots of activities, the Tamilnadu cluster and the incubation centers at IIT Madras, HTIC IITM, Golden Jubilee, Women Park, the Tanuvas, Chennai, Sri Ramchandra Incubation Center, Crescent, Shastra, VIT Vellore, TSG, STEP Coimbatore, and SPMV, which I have been working with very closely with them, have really supported that. And I will really, and the collaborative learning is important, and we should really encourage that. And I wish this conference and these collaborations all the success. May God bless you all. Stay safe, and I will thank you all again for giving this opportunity to be a part of this meeting and to be helping to be a part of this today's conclave. I'm thankful to you. Thank you very much. Over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. Now we'll move on to the launching of Tamil Nadu cluster website. I would now invite Dr. Swaminathan, who is leading the activities of Tamil Nadu cluster website, along with the other cluster members, Dr. Smita Srivatsava, Dr. Balachandran, and Dr. Suresh, to launch the Tamil Nadu cluster website along with Dr. Srishantu Mukherjee. So would request Dr. Swaminathan to kindly invite Dr. Srishantu Mukherjee for the launch. We would also invite Dr. Mohan Shankar Sivaprakasam, faculty in charge HTIC, to launch the Tamil Nadu cluster website along with the cluster members. Over to Dr. Swaminathan for the proceedings.
Thank you, Dr. Archana. Good morning, everybody. Delighted to be here as we see the progress of the Tamil Nadu biocluster. In fact, the seeds of this were sowed in Delhi during the 7th Foundation Day of BIRAC in the presence of Dr. Renu Swarup, Dr. Manish Diwan, Dr. Chaya, and the entire team of BIRAC. And with the continuous support, nurturing of Dr. Muthu Singaram, now we we have now connected with the ecosystem and gotten to a level of launching the website and moving forward with progressive activities. I now request Dr. Shirendra Mukherjee to officially launch the Tamilnadu website. And we also have a small video. Once you launch it, we will play the video.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. I have to click something.
You could announce that officially it's launched, and I will play the video from here.
Sure. So I'm delighted to announce the official launch of the website for Tamilnadu cluster.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm also privileged to be working with a very collective and responsible team, especially with the support from Dr. Smita from IITM, Dr. Balachandran from VIT, and Dr. Suresh from PSG, and also the entire, all the members of the Tamilnadu cluster who have been very proactive in all our activities in terms of putting the website together. I place on record my sincere thanks to all the members. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to launch.
Can the cluster members just come on screen so everybody knows who they are, please? And Dr. Mohan, please show your face as well on behalf of HTIC. Where is he? He was there. Mohan, there?
No, Muthu,
show your face,
I'm
Mohan.
literally on the road. I'm walking through streets.
Oh, okay. So you can't show your face. Okay, no problem. So okay. Okay, so that's great.
No, it's not that I can't show my face. Bandwidth is not good enough. You'll not get
okay, no worries. No worries. So once this is done, I think we're back to Archana. Thank you so much, Dr. Mukherjee. You please go ahead, take care of your good lady. We'll see you next time. Chaya, please don't go because I have a surprise for you. Don't go yet.
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mukherjee.
I'm staying. Thank you, Mukherjee sir.
Chaya.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us this morning. And thank you all the cluster members and all the people here. That's a wonderful launch for our website. So with that, we'll now invite Dr. Mohan Shankar Sivaprakasham, faculty in charge HTIC, to address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Archana. I don't know whether you can hear me well. There's a lot of noise. I'm just...
Good, we can hear you. Great.
Yeah. So it'll be slightly muffled covering my phone. So, I mean, I don't have much to add. This is really a great occasion. I mean, the number of people who have come, that tells me a lot more than anything else. So I just wanted to say just a couple of points. First is, I think it has now reached a point, the bio-entrepreneurship in India has to move to is automatically moving to the next phase, where we probably need 2 or 3 big commercial successes. I think that is probably what the stakeholders like BIRAC, even as a country as a large, is probably anticipating. I know bio success is much a longer gestation period, but I think we have to take a conscious effort here. Instead of saying we will see how it goes, I think now there is enough pieces that have come together. Now there is one big piece that is still missing. It is on the demand side. In fact, I would sort of argue there is actually probably a surplus of innovations. In fact, if you do a simple mapping of innovations and market, in fact, I find it almost 1:10. I think there is just more innovations than what is really the market can absorb. I know it sounds very sort of blasphemous to say that, but if you really paid attention to the details in terms of economics and numbers, you realize probably there is a surplus of innovations. What is missing right now is the demand side, whatever you want to call it, either fixing or understanding or even some policy tweaks. And this is something definitely BIRAC has to play a role invariably, because you can't do supply side alone. You have to fix demand side, especially with public health, government procurement, and more volume in public health, and it's going to continue for the next couple of years. It will be more. We really need to find ways on how to translate the excitement and enthusiasm on the supply side to the demand side. This is a very sobering activity. It's not easy. This is not something that sometimes even is pleasant. I mean, it's very easy to do innovations sitting in a lab or even sitting in a company, but fixing it on the demand side essentially involves money, as simple as that. I mean, you literally have to get the right from the tender, the specifications, the procurement, the order, the payment. All this have to be consciously done by the demand side to ensure the success on the supply side is translated into demand side. And this is something, Chaya, we have to work together. I think without fixing this, you will not see explicit translation of these things into success in a commercial sense. When I say commercial sense, I don't necessarily mean profit, but definitely in terms of actual impact, you really need the demand side translation. So this is a thought I want to leave. I want to leave with only one thought to you, is how do you translate this into a demand side success? But for doing that, you obviously need multiple stakeholders and probably a large force. So I want you to carry this in your mind, that innovations are not impactful unless somebody pays for it. Somebody has to pay for it. Whether it is at cost price or whether it is 10 times the cost price is a different matter. But somebody has to pay for all these things. And sooner we fix that, then you will find this pipeline will become much more impactful and much more attractive to more innovators and entrepreneurs. So with that, once again, let me wish everybody who has participated in making this Tamilnadu cluster a reality and a success. And we should aim higher, not rest with what we have. So good luck and keep working hard.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words, and thank you for having your time with us this morning. With that, I would now request Dr. Chaya Chavan, Manager Incubation at BIRAC, to say a few words. We're very happy to have you here, Dr. Chaya. As always, been a great support to HTIC in all the events we do, and the support and the guidance that you're giving us for all the events that we run at HTIC. Over to you, Dr. Chaya.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So it's my extreme pleasure to join everyone today, and I'm very pleased to see the activities that Tamil Nadu cluster has been doing for the past 1 year. And I would say that I think this is one of the most active clusters that engaging with each other, organizing so many activities, and I'm really proud of the cluster. And this is not just me, but a message from Dr. Devan as well. We've been seeing how actively you all are contributing towards supporting the ecosystem, and how actively you've been engaging with each other to organize several events, even in these stressful times. So congratulations to each and everyone, all the team members of all the I think 10 or 11 incubators in Chennai. So congratulations to all the incubation centers that BIRAC has supported. And one is from, I think, Tirupati. So congratulations to each and everyone. And I'm very, very, very pleased to see the website launch. I think this is one step further. And all the best for today's conclave. Dr. Devan could not join, but he is very pleased to see these kind of activities happening. Thank you, Dr. Muthu, and thank you, HTIC team. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Chaya. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning. With that, we'll now move on to the first panel discussion this morning. The first panel discussion is on building startup ecosystem through incubators. We have a moderator, Ms. Deepanvita Chattopadhyay, vibrant and dynamic chairman and CEO of IKP Knowledge Park, the Knowledge Park which has been recently awarded Best Incubator from BIRAC. So we have a wonderful panel here with us. So now I would invite Ms. Deepanvita Chattopadhyay, please go ahead in introducing the panel members and go ahead with the panel discussion. Over to you, ma'am, to take it forward.
Thank you. A very good morning to all of you present today. And this is a very important moment for the incubation fraternity because Muthu actually has proven that, yes, we keep saying that we don't work in silos, but he's actually proven that we are not working in silos. He has brought this cluster together, and congratulations to all of you from the Tamilnadu cluster. Chaya just mentioned that Tirupati is also there. So it's also this, it's not state, it's the regional connect that you are putting together. It's absolutely fantastic to be here. I heard Dr. Shishendu Mukherjee talk about BIRAC's immense role that BIRAC has been playing. And, you know, I was just looking through some of the data, and all of you are here. We have a galaxy of incubator CEOs here managing life science incubators. My sense is, and you may correct me, about half of all the startups are connected to some incubator or the other. Whereas if I'm talking of, that's for life sciences. But if I'm talking of all startups in general, my estimate is about 20% are in the incubation fraternity, from the incubation fraternity. And Suresh is here, and Bala, Suresh, Bala, Poini, Mrityunjay, all are ISBA board members. And Suresh is the president. You can actually tell me whether I'm in the right ballpark figure or not. My assessment is about 20 to 25 maximum. About 20% of the entire startup community are from the incubation fraternity. But whenever I'm looking at life sciences, it's about half. Half of all the startups are somehow connected to the incubation fraternity. And I've asked this question, why? Because life science is a very IP-driven, knowledge-driven sector where you need the connect of, it's just not about business mentoring, it's technology connect, it's the clinical connect, it is the entire knowledge transfer and intellectual property development that is unique to the life sciences sector, which needs hand-holding, much more hand-holding. Apart from business hand-holding and funding, it needs much more direct contact with incubation managers and the incubation ecosystem, which means we have a huge responsibility of doing our work well. The one way we can learn how to do our work well is to actually talk to some of the best incubation managers, the incubation CEOs present here. And let me tell you, Muthu has done a great job of getting Poini, Mrityunjay, Taslim, Jitendra, and of course, from Hyderabad, our neighbor and our incubation cluster hero, Dr. Madhusudan Rao from CCMB, AIM Incubator, and also now BioNest Incubator. If you're not, you'll become. So I'm not sure whether you're part of the BioNest Incubator as yet, but does not matter because we are talking of life sciences. So let me first start by requesting one by one, and I'll just take the names, and you would want to hear an overview about your incubator and highlighting two initiatives that you think have made a difference, made some impact to the ecosystem in a very positive manner. Can we first go with Mrityunjay?
Yes, yes, ma'am. So do you have to speak on what? Sorry. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Yes. About your incubation system and
Right.
two initiatives that you think you've been able to make an impact.
Thank you. So thank you, HTIC. Thank you, Mr. Muthu, for inviting me to this, and thanks you, ma'am. So I think for your knowledge, KIT TBI, the BioNest, is here since 2012, and in the east part of India, in Odisha and Bhubaneswar, and we have been doing fairly okay at the moment. And you might have known that 100+ biotech startups are flourishing through our mentoring process here as a big partner or as a BioNest incubator. And the best part is that we could create the momentum in this part of the country, reaching out to east and northeast part of India, which was probably difficult earlier, but in due course of time, you'll see the hungry, the kind of demand will come from this part. And you'll see we will create at least 200 to 250 startups from east and northeast of India, and there will be noted one, good one. And in we have, I think, incubated 120+ biotech startups, which has created more than 1,000+ jobs, and raised several investment funds, very small ticket size. But one of the biggest was from a digital IT company, but not the biotech one. However, we're also learning the process. So TBI is doing fairly okay, reaching out to other parts of East and Northeast. Now, let me tell you the two good things we have been doing, and we're becoming very known for it and becoming popular for it. Recently, one of the company you might have heard called Asgrex, which is a digital is made a device which could look at 6 parameters of blood without taking blood. It's in a fingertip. It's a spectroscopy technique. It became very, very popular. Your Story CEO Saddha Sharma interviewed him. And then more than 25 investors are lined up. I think 6 or 7 going to put money. It's a big money. And this company is homegrown company. It's, individual into now 25 people. You'll see now 100 people joining the company. So you want to build such success stories. We have several of those, I think a dozen of those. But this, I want to see that in east and northeast part of India is going to do good. Now, why it's happening? The two best practices I can tell you. That piloting with state government. And many of my, many times the gurus, they said, it's not good to have business with government. I think in the health sector, the piloting is very, very important. The first deployment. So people don't trust it as such. Now, if you onboard government and then they do the piloting through their health structure, like, so for example, just to information the audience, I'll tell you, this is what I feel very happy, that the Secretary of Health is writing, the Health and Family Welfare Department of Government of Odisha. Of course, this is not a one-day job. You have to go and talk to them very often. That's what the job of a CEO or the enablers, what we should do. So they have said a meeting to facilitate the growth of ready-to-market startups of KIT TBI biotech startups on 24th April, 11 a.m. means tomorrow. And they have called all health department people, somebody into trials, DMET department, the Special Secretary to Health and Family Welfare, the DHS chief, the additional DMET, the additional chief secretary of health. Now, why I'm saying, because the company like Asgrex, we have several of those. Now, they have been developing things, but if they don't go to deployment with proper regulatory, the proper health strategies, I think in long run, they will phase out from the system. So this is what one thing we did at the moment, talking to the chief minister's level, the chief secretary level, then the other bureaucrats level, that how our startups, homegrown startups, will take advantage of Make in Odisha concept, build that linkage, and onboard government as one of the other enabler to our biotech startups. So that's the good thing. We build it. Now the other thing, thanks to BIRAC, because that was our dream project, that how, because KIT TBI BioNest is known as a good one at the moment, but how can it be the best one in future? That we built up the hub and spoke model through BIRAC Regional Center establishment called BRTC. So through that, we are reaching out to east and northeastern region. And for all of your knowledge, you'll be very surprised, because also I'm listening to all BIG applicants in all the 17, 18 calls. And some of the startups or the innovators from this region of East and Northeast are very, very good. I think they're going to, I can tell you that some of them will be, killer in the biotech industry. So we are now reaching out to these people in the hub and spoke model, working with this. And I'm learning today from the cluster model of Tamilnadu. And I'm sure I'll, not copy and paste, but learn from here and see that the East and Northeast cluster are also going to come up in a bigger way for all, for the biotech startups in this country. So thank you. I think these two things I wanted to tell you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Mrityunjay, you're doing great work and there's so much to learn from you. Can I request Dr. Madhusudan Rao, please, to say what two initiatives, about a little bit about your incubator and two initiatives that actually stand out and is making a difference. Dr. Rao, please.
Good morning. Thank you, ma'am, for moderating this session. And good morning to all of you. I'm CEO of the Urban Innovation Center at CCMB. And the focus of our incubation center is in healthcare and biotechnology. The obvious reasons is that we grew out of CCMB, so the strengths of CCMB obviously pattern into our activities. So we are trying to get into Medtech kind of a area, but that is still in the formative stages. So though we are a 3.5, 4 years old setup, the last 1.5 years, as you know, for everybody, the things have been quite different from what they have been earlier. So one of the things that we quickly adopted our incubation centers focus, having been in the context of CCMB, is to help a lot of startups in there are resident and non-resident startups in supporting their development activities in various diagnostics. The one big advantage I have in facilitating this one is because we do a lot of viral cultures and things like that, and also we do a lot of clinical sampling, which I coordinate. I coordinate the testing center of which recognized by ICMR as the validation center for all the diagnostic kits. So I have access to a lot of clinical samples and so on and so forth. So that helped me in bringing a lot of these young companies that they wanted to develop their own kits, because most of the things, as you see, RT-PCR and ELISA are the major ones that go in the market, and we helped them, at least 6-7 companies, in getting into that game. And initially, we had a lot of companies coming to us trying to do the VTMs kind of a thing, antiseptic, but that was a low-hanging, very, very low-hanging fruit. That doesn't excite us, other than providing some regulatory, convenience for them to go forward. The next thing is in testing these compounds. So what we are doing is, besides providing a lot of experimental support, we also try to get to them on how to go about doing it. So many of them, as you know, come with a bright eyes and something interesting, but at the same time, they have a lot of gaps that they didn't attend to. I think that's where most of the people rush, and then they can't run the long marathon. I mean, they are prepared more for 400 meters. So that's where I think we need to give them that kind of a support. So I believe a lot of technical and business mentorship, at least in my last 3.5, 4 years of experience, what I realized is that has to be given in a very strong terms in the beginning of their journey. I think that's what we do. And as I said, the COVID has made us shift our gears quite a bit and support at least several of them. 6 of them have put their products in the market, but most of them we help at least more than a dozen or so companies in testing their technologies. I think my opinion is a lot of technical and business mentorship advice is essentially very early for them to be successful. That's what we focus on. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. So we heard an incubator from Orissa, which is part of a university, a private university. We have heard from Dr. Rao from a CSIR lab. Let us all hear from the incubator sign from IIT Bombay. aspects, because each of these ecosystems are different. And I'm just trying to get a flavor of how you're working around that. Can we have Poini, please? Please unmute yourself, Poini.
My bad, sorry. So thank you very much, Muthu and team and Dipanvita. Like, it's really nice to be here. And I think when you talk about incubator ecosystem, you know, pretty much all of us are doing pretty much the same thing, right? We at a program level start to scale support, infrastructure level, and then especially in biotech industry, what is required, like you mentioned about the challenges, why 50% of the startups are associated with the incubator, because a macro level ecosystem is still not really mature, unlike other technology areas. So at incubator level, we are trying to do pretty much similar thing. Before I step into like you know what we are doing here, let me give one introduction. We are actually predominantly broad spectrum incubator, not really a domain specific incubator. So when it comes to life science or healthcare or medtech, we are relatively quite new in this ecosystem for about 3 years or so. Being part of engineering, like Dr. Rao said that they are born out of CCMB, we are born out of IIT Bombay. So like technology area is very much our forte. Within that technology area, I think engineering side of medical technology or healthcare technology is somewhere we focus, but of late we also see many science-based companies are also coming to science. Yeah, so we started as a technology incubator, getting there. Today, I must tell you, nearly 40% of our startup are into medtech, life science, and assistive devices technology. So I think I feel a bit competent that I can, like, you know, speak a little bit about this area here. So that's one thing. I think, as I mentioned, like, you know, we as an incubator community, we all are learning from each other and trying to do pretty much similar thing. But at the same time, right now, if you look at Dipanvita, like startup ecosystem, especially in healthcare, is still pretty much dominant in urban spaces. Like, so Mrutyunjay is doing great job in eastern part, right? But if you look at it, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, like Mumbai and all, it's still pretty much urban space. Tier 2 town, tier 3 town, or for example, that for that matter, even tier 2 institute in urban space, they are still not aware about, you know, entrepreneurial opportunity, biotech ecosystem, biomedtech ecosystem. And when we entered this space, and especially when we became, you know, BIG partner in this biotech ecosystem, established people like you were already there. So we didn't know how to go about it or penetrate the system. And deliberately, we went to go to a very, very small town and started talking about like, you know, biotech ecosystem out there. So towns like Dhule and Nashik and like, you know, Nanded and Anand from Gujarat, those kind of towns we started targeting. And we are actually getting applications out there. Quality may take some time to arrive at, but like we are doing that thing. Second thing is that like Mumbai, you know, it's very surprising. We are talking about cluster. Mumbai has all ingredients, institutional ecosystem, yeah, pharma industry you talk about, research institute, hospitals, they have all ingredients of fabulous cluster ecosystem, and they all are contributing at a national level. But if you try to connect the dot, it is still missing. And this is what we are trying to basically, you know, work with pharma industry, Actract, Tata Memorial, KEM hospitals, state government, and BMC hospitals, and all those things, and institutes like Hafkin and ICT and all those things. So we are trying to create a, you know, now cluster. I don't think we are ready yet to launch a cluster, but yes, now we are gathering, you know, some kind of pool of people who are willing to talk to each other. So this is second thing that we are trying to do that. And third thing is that, of course, I don't think it's related to healthcare, but it is actually evolving towards healthcare ecosystem is like our cross-border certain programs. So it started with like, exposure of entrepreneur at an international level, but going by the trend, because large healthcare and medtech companies are coming up in international scenario as well as Indian scenario, large part of our cohorts are medtech companies. And good thing that has come out of it, that like several companies have joined together for a joint grant. Like 4 of our Indo-Swiss program, 4 or 5 teams have come together from both the side, and they have got some EU grants and all those things. And it's not only grant, then you get the exposure to external ecosystem as a startup. So these are the few initiatives that we are trying to.
So thank you for actually the external connect, the internationalization, and going to tier 2, tier 3 towns, both are very important for the ecosystem to bloom. Now we'll go to Bangalore. Bangalore is such a large ecosystem. I have to talk of South Bangalore, North Bangalore. So we have 2 incubators from these 2 areas. They are different. They are different because what Taslim is heading is actually part of an academic cluster. And we'll love to hear from Taslim first, and then we'll go to Jitendra, because they are supported by DBT, BIRAC, and the state government, but they are part of the industry ecosystem, which is very different from what we heard so far in terms of direct connect with academic institutions. So Taslim, can you go first, please?
Thank you so much, Deeparuta. Thank you. And thanks, Muthu and organizers for this opportunity to share our thoughts. I think just to take the conversations forward, I think what we heard, first of all, I think it's remarkable that, such a good gathering has been brought in for this very exciting day. While we all, struggle at large in India right now with the situation very grim around us, I really hope for a significant intervention that can save all of us from the disaster that we are facing. It is nothing short of a disaster, and I hope that damage gets lower by that. It's very painful to see what's happening around us. Having said that, today is a World Innovation Day, and it's a right approach for all of us to look at how innovations can actually help the society back. While we talk about entrepreneurship and incubation, it's an impact of the work that we do has the right outcome that we all wanted. We are here for that impact as we talk about the phenomenal work that a lot of scientists are doing, be it in academic flavor or be it in translation or a commercialization flavor. It's very good. So at CCamp, for friends who are possibly not much aware, we are based out of Bangalore. We are largely and very dedicatedly focused. As Boini mentioned before me, that while they are broad spectrum, we are largely dedicated to life sciences, and since beginning we have been doing this. So that's the flavors that you're seeing among this group only. That there are different kind of incubators who have different capabilities of doing it. Because of this dedicated focus, what we are pushing to do is more cutting edge science to take forward. That is something, because once we have a niche, we can go deeper in the niche in a way. And that's what we have attempted to do over the last 8 to 10 years. And we are very, very happy to see some of the, fruits or the fruition that has come out of this large work, where we have now possibility of having one of the best therapeutic outcomes from India in terms of antibiotic discovery. We are seeing a US FDA approved ventilator-associated products in India, which is like Koyo Labs, again from Bangalore. Phenomenal work, which is right now helping people save lives by preventing secondary infections when they are on ventilator on COVID. We have right now a lot of effort that actually attempts to do biologics, which allow the capability to do high production of enzymes, which can go in COVID diagnostics. So these are different good scientific, undertaking which has taken forward as innovation we go forward. So I know I don't want to take much of your time, Deepanita, because otherwise we'll struggle. But very quickly, two major, today I think we have to talk about the initiatives around COVID. I think the work for all of us, starting from IKP itself, we have not spoken much about IKP, but IKP has been one of the first one that we saw happening around. So, from starting from IKP, then we had others like you talk about from the KIT to CCMB to SIGN, CCAMP, and Bangalore Bio Innovation Center, and many others. What they have provided is now they have provided platforms for innovations to come and go forward. And the reason, the example I wanted to give with that is one of the effort we did last year, and we continue to do it, and rather we have reignited that effort called CCDA, CCAMP COVID Innovation Deployment Accelerator, which we felt very gratifying. It wasn't a funded one. Largely, it was an effort that we all wanted to do. We felt as a part of the community to see what we can do, whatever position we in, can we do that? And I'm fairly, a little bit satisfied rather. I wish we could have done more, but we actually saw 1,100 innovations through that accelerator. We did a thorough due diligence with a strong scientific and business team that we have been able to build together. Within a month of 1,100 innovations, we shortlisted 30 within a month. And I'm very happy to share 22 of them are right now in the field and doing the work in diagnostics to, the respiratory support to the sterilization prevention, including the remote vital monitoring and so on, like the one that Dozy that you know of and has connection, rather supported by IKP as well. So just to step back, this is very important one. This was a platform where innovators could come and help further. The second one that we have done has been again with COVID related, which is called NBRIC and Index, which got supported later on by the Rockefeller Foundation. Idea was to support the indigenization of sorts, and the idea was that how can we build our own capabilities when we all realize that our traditional inflow of innovation resources and the for healthcare delivery was not happening because of many reasons, and we had to be self-reliant, and that effort has now been fairly successful in terms of COVID-19 diagnostics, where we have nearly 100 companies working on this platform of NBRIC Index to actually have the capability of ICMR CSI approved capabilities, and we have done a lot of work with them, and you'll be surprised by the capacity and the affordability that it has been able to bring together. And this has been possible because of such platforms, I would say. That's what I meant to say. It's not an organization, it's about the platform that actually can bring together. So these are the larger efforts in terms of COVID initiatives I wanted to say, while other efforts continue. I'm happy to explain.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Jitendra, please unmute.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all in this panel, and really thank you for including me in this panel. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So I'll just say a few words about Bangalore Bioinnovation Center and then two initiatives that we have taken. Bangalore Bioinnovation Center, as pointed out rightly by Deepanita madam, is the unique state-owned incubator, meaning that it's state-owned by the government of Karnataka. 51% share is held by them, and therefore it cannot be categorized as an academic institution. And also, as she mentioned, we are in the midst of an industrial cluster, which makes us a very unique, in the midst of a unique cluster, which we are trying to build. This started in 2016, and within a short time, we have been able to create a large ecosystem of startup, and I can easily say that this is a very good startup ecosystem hub in the country in the short time. We have very good infrastructure, as many of us has. We have been supported by BIRAC, DBT. One of the good things that has happened is, although it's a state incubator and it's not directly attached to the academic institution, but we do have a lot of association with academic institutions like Institute of Bioinformatics and Applied Biotechnology, Center for Human Genetics. So, and also now we have formed very good linkages with IIT, for example, IIT Mumbai, IIMs, IIM Hyderabad, IIM Bangalore, Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. So it is a very good ecosystem that within short time Bangalore Bioinnovation Center has built up. The two initiatives that I can say Bangalore Bioinnovation Center has taken and which has created a very good ecosystem here in this South Bangalore side is that one that we have, of course, this is specific to COVID. We have created one COVID challenge in which lot of startup companies have applied, and that we have done standalone from government side as well as we have done in association with Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. And we received lot of applications, very good innovations, potential innovations, and many of them were not incubated anywhere. They were coming on their own ideas for the first time, and they were looking for facility, incubation, mentorship, funding, networking. So we selected some 30 good innovations which we incubated actually, and you will be glad to know that many of them within short time had come up with products, and we launched some 24 products last year in series of wave of launches by none other than our own minister, Shri Ashwath Narayanji, who is our minister also, Department of Electronics, ITBT and SNT. So that launch created a lot of good platform for these startups, not only the visibility, but also they get a lot of connections in the government, because many government officials were there present. And as we know, government connections are very important for at least healthcare products to go through many hurdles. So that was one initiative that we have taken very seriously and successfully. The other initiative, which I think is very crucial for any ecosystem, and I know that many of the incubation centers have taken, but Government of Karnataka, Department of Electronics, ITBT and ST has recognized Bangalore Bioinnovation Center to start a center for bio-entrepreneurship, which we have already started. 2 courses have been launched here, and it has made a very good impact. One was the certificate program in technology entrepreneurship and technology entrepreneurship development program, and it was funded by DST. This is a program which is supported in many incubators. But what I'm trying to say is that we made it a very highly successful program, very popular, and a lot of innovations are eager, and that was all over India. So it was not specific to Karnataka. And many innovators from all across India, they want to actually come to Bangalore and set up, and they want to take the facility of Bangalore Bioinnovation Center. Within this recognition, one more was to set up a technology transfer cell and IP cell, which also has created a lot of good impact, not only from our startups in Bangalore Bioinnovation Center, but also all across India. Many startups, innovators have approached our technology transfer and IP cell, and we have helped a lot of them. At least I would say 50 such requests have come within short time, and we have done freedom to operate search, help in technology transfer, and many such help. Within the recognition side from the central, from our department, one more was that Bangalore Bioinnovation Center should become a mentor for the other incubation centers who either in existence or they want to create an innovation center or incubation center, and we should help them in tier 2 cities. I think one, the COVID-19 challenge, the other recognitions from department, our own department, to set up these 3 initiatives has given a very good fillip to the innovation, I would say. So this is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go back to Mrityunjay. Mrityunjay, I have a question for you. Can you just tell us about two challenges that you feel your startups are facing, and how do you help them overcome these challenges? Because you're working in a very difficult, not in a very difficult, because you've made it easy now. I can't call it, earlier it was very difficult. Now it is quite at par with any other tier 1 cities. But tell us, what are the challenges and how do you help them overcome?
Thank you, ma'am. I think you have put us in a category from underdeveloped to developing. Good. So, no, I think that's true also, true. So thank you, ma'am. I think there are a lot of challenges we face, but yes, the job of incubators to also build strategies, how to overcome. But at the end, you have to perform. Otherwise, you'll not get startups in your facilities. Yes. Now, the two big challenge I feel for health startups, the number one for the trials, because if you come to Bhubaneswar side, the trial sites are not, you have to really educate them. Even you have to build that critical mass, which hospitals, you have to educate those clinicians. So these startups which are now developing products for health, I think they need to build their trial and regulatory path. So where we are facing a lot of problems. But luckily, because of something, we could catch hold of our local institutions. You'll be very happy. 17 of our startups are doing trials with clinical partners. So we have built a clinical peer support program, CPSP program. So there we call them, we show them, what do you call, some traction or some sort of benefits they will get, how will help them. So one challenge we have been facing earlier is to invite clinical partners. At the moment, because of the CPSP program or reaching out to clinical partners, we could solve it. And 17 of our startups who are into, doing trials, and they're basically getting advantage of it. The second one is regulatory path. For example, I see startups keep on developing because BIG grant, BIRA gives money and they build prototypes, start doing, but they don't build the right regulatory path. And I've seen companies suffering because they could build the product, but there is a severe concern from the regulatory authorities. So now it's not taking off, even though it's a very exciting product, it can really go. But so that regulatory path, even we don't have expertise, so that's why we have now hiring one lady from Switzerland. She's a EU lady. She'll be joining us very soon, and she'll bring European regulatory perspective, and then also will bring somebody from India. So these two things are very, very challenging for us, and including the piloting part of it in the health sector. So again, I told you earlier, we are talking to government, state government, and bringing them on board. And you'll be very happy, madam, here to announce that I talked to the chief secretary, additional chief secretary, the former chief secretary, the CM office, and took our startups there, built a platform where every month our startup talk to the collectors. We'll be very happy that recently also we are going to host a meeting where the CMO is organizing the meeting, and I'm going to address 15 promising young collectors of Odisha of district headquarters, and they will be happy to take some of our startups in their district level for deployment. But these should be all ready products, not like piloting trial kind of things, which already got the clearance. So I think these are the 2-3 challenges we have been facing apart from other investment, but these two things I want to highlight. But again, I'm saying you'll only talk to us, you'll only invite us to such platform, only thing if you perform. So to build our strategies to now to go to better sites. Thank you very much.
Oh, fantastic work, Mrityunjay. I keep hearing about the work you make the challenges sound quite simple. The way you say, so I know how much work goes behind it. Dr. Rao, you already spoke about certain challenges. Where do you see the ecosystem evolving by 2025-6?
Yeah, quite a few comments. My comments echo what others have been saying, all right. But personally, what I see is in another 4 years, I'm sure the speed of these kind of innovation around the incubations and the startups ecosystem will be, I think, at least several-fold higher. That's for sure, because whether the challenges are the demands coming from globally, or otherwise, there is a more pressure for us to do things on our own, which is very important. And I don't see why not, because there is enough amount of technological pool and infrastructure, government willingness, so why not that can happen. And I'm sure we are in a kind of a bit of an exponential, if not log 10, at least it is log 2.
Wonderful.
So we will definitely go up. That's no question about it. But the second thing is, when it comes to challenges, what I see is there is the enthusiasm component is a large part of any startup founder. I mean, that is essential, but that is taking the largest portion of their reason for becoming a startup. I think the more wise thing is to look at I mean, what I'm saying is they are very less business savvy. So it has to be seen purely as an enterprise. And since most of the founders come from academic background, they presume a lot of things can be solved easily, which is the major mental block I see to break it. See, for example, and at the same time, for example, just give you an example of one struggle that we are having. Is somebody came up with a very interesting device on how to sterilize the air. I mean, there are several technologies, all right. I mean, Panasonic has, Unilever has, but this person has a slightly different one. But now to get a license approval, we are not able to put him in one particular category. These kind of things ultimately prove like a big hurdle for somebody to translate their technology to a product. So a lot of regulatory related help, both from the government and also from the incubator side, is extremely essential. And that is where I think we are also struggling to get very right counsel on the regulatory issues. Is something
Fantastic.
Yeah,
So I heard that both from Dr. Rao and Mrityunjay, regulatory area is very important. I'll just shift gears and ask Taslim. Taslim, where do you expect maximum investments to flow in the next couple of years?
In terms of, I think clearly current times worldwide have brought the attention to healthcare. I think one can't deny that. I think the world's attention to healthcare, I think people are talking about health as a critical point, and solutions that can serve for better health are talked about. So I definitely foresee heavy flow of support in terms of healthcare component that is coming in. Within that, if you want to look at, let's say, if you want to talk about India for now, as we are talking about the context, I foresee that considering a kind of a churn that has happened in molecular diagnostics in India. India, we always had players, but they were, I think, smaller players in molecular diagnostics. But the need of tests of 16 lakhs tests per day, as of yesterday, or possibly 20 lakhs, this requires different capacity and also in terms of both development and manufacturing. And since this has happened, I see a major investment opportunity where new players will come in. We already have heard Tata Medical that has come in. There are 3 or 4 major which would be announced possibly next 3 to 6 months, which are in talking, which I do know of, but I think it's better that they announce on this. So there will be a major move towards molecular diagnostics development, which was not India's strength as a whole, and then manufacturing both. So that would be something, a major movement that I see as an opportunity. Of course, we have to tap on it rather than let it go away. But I think that's definitely I see as one investment opportunity for sure.
Thanks. Poini, since you're looking at the entire sector, where do you see the maximum investments flowing in? One of your startups, though not in the healthcare space, became an unicorn. So you have the pulse of investments. Can we hear from you? Where do you think investments would come?
Yeah. So I think you are talking about at a broad level. I think the trend will pretty much continue on the tech side of, you know, side of the startup, where the scale is faster, and especially digital technologies and all those things is going to be there. But in healthcare side, I think I agree with what Taslim said. But I still have a sense that digital healthcare will rule because gestation period is very, very small and scale is much faster. And one thing that, like, if you ask what is the change that you would look at it, then I would say what Taslim said, like, Taslim, what you said, your wish, our command, and make that things, inshallah, it could basically be proven wrong, right. Yeah. But I think trend of investment, there would be many investors, there would be lots of funding coming up, maybe lots of unicorns will happen, trend will continue, other side will grow, but I don't think it will overpower this tech side of this thing. That's what my sense is right now.
Yeah, and the health tech and tech, these have become mainstream tech.
Right.
So that part would be much, and that's what I feel. Both health tech and ag tech, among other things, would get
right.
Because
lots of digital side of it. But
lots of digital side.
Where there is a faster scale, right? So
yes.
That is going to be.
Absolutely. Since we are coming almost to the end, Jitendra, I have a question for you. If you want to see one change in the startup ecosystem today, what is that? What would be that? Please unmute.
Sorry, I think I would say two actually, and two are related. So it is one actually. See, many of the startups in my incubation center, they have expressed their desire to have a pilot scale facility, which sometimes they do not get. Say, for example, 100-liter fermenter, which they have done in flask, now they want to scale up. Many of the incubation centers may not have it. And not only fermenters, but pilot scale for fermenter, but say GMP, small scale GMP for pilot scale. That is a missing link. I think there are many such facilities may be available, but it may not be accessible to the startup because of the cost, etc. So, Bangalore Innovation Center, we have created such things that is that creates a good link between the proof of concept and going forward. And then linked to it is early stage funding. After this BIRAC big and state funding and all, I think still they need some early stage funding, not to the tune of 50 crore, 25 to 50 crore, but say around 5 to 10 crore, 3 to 5 crore. And I think to this effect, we have links with Kitven and many venture funding. We have sensitized Angel, India Angel Network, etc. And we regularly conduct such meetings. So I think these two are linked together, but these are one actually. So that I would say is a critical link.
Wonderful. Now I have, actually it's 11:15, and I have to ask HTIC, the organizers of today's program, can I take 2 more minutes, or is it
yes.
a hard
yes,
stop?
Yes, ma'am, sure, ma'am. Yeah, you can.
Thanks, Archana.
No
I think we have learned a lot in terms of the discussion that happened. I would request, if there are, we can take 2 questions, 2 compelling questions. I have asked for 2 minutes so that everyone present here gets a chance to ask a question to the panel. Anyone who wants to, please raise your hand and please continue. Is there a question for anyone? I really see no questions. That means our incubator CEOs have done a fantastic job of clearing the doubts in the minds of the other incubator managers in this cluster. One thing that I thought we did not touch upon, and I just want anyone from the panel wants to talk about the new technologies like CAR-T or immune therapy or areas like that we did not talk about at all. Are these part of the incubation system that we can take forward, or will it come from slightly larger companies? Very short answers, because this will be important, where how do we focus and where do we take ourselves? And Taslim, you would understand why I'm asking this question, and all of you would, because we are not planning for today, we are planning for tomorrow. And if we cannot really see where the world will be moving, the large investors will never come for the small kinds of technologies that we develop. Anyone who wants to go?
Yeah,
yes,
so Dipangita, I think you are bang on it actually. Sometimes you feel that technology is at such a high, I'm not talking about technology or science per se, but the requirement is at such a high level of order that perhaps only industry can basically, chip in there. But unless we take a chance on them, they will not be visible. In fact, at Science, we are actually incubating one CAR-T cell company, which is into immunotherapy for cancer treatment. Yeah, we are doing it, and we know it's such a challenging, starting from trials and regulatory approval and funding, and then eventually industry taking them over, because they are not going to become manufacturing of this thing, right? So, but unless we do that at incubator level for this particular segment, they won't be visible at all, and hence we need to take
I completely agree. Even if we fail in doing so, we have to do it. Anyone else, whoever wants to take the last chance?
Yeah.
Yes,
Just I'll quickly add. Largely, I think very rightly put, Dipayanta. I think these are the futuristic technology, and while we continue to support this, we have to build futuristic technology, and immunotherapy or CAR-T are clearly the ones that we require, and also the possibly even neglected ones. We'll have to support the neglected diseases too, right? Because we do not have that global support otherwise. So I think we are and even stem cell therapy, we can add that to it, because this will be a reality in a couple of years, that we will have stem cell therapy being done around us. And we at CCAM, we are very blessed to have 3 or 4 stem cell therapy which could possibly go towards phase 1 soon. We have now CRISPR based capabilities, not only for therapeutic but even diagnostics. And very importantly, I think companies like looking at in terms of CAR-T and immune therapy for cancer aspect as well. But you rightly said, we'll have to promote them. We'll have to support their bets, and we have to be a part of their bets and do that. And before I conclude, just a thing, we are on the platform of BioNest and BIRAC. I would say that BIRAC actually changed the game of the taking bets, I would say, through the big and other schemes. So I think kudos to BIRAC to doing that and allowing all of us to do that too. So I think just wanted to add that point. Thank you.
So I know, 30 seconds and then I'll close.
I just wanted to say that apart from CAR-T and other technologies in the forefront, I think artificial intelligence is one, AI-based technologies are one that is going to change the game. Especially even in COVID, we see a lot of companies. One of the startups in Bangalore Bioinnovation Center, Indra, has developed that platform, and we know that now RT-PCR tests are failing because of mutants and other things. No more golden standard. Now we are coming back again to the chest X-rays and CT scan, where AI will play a very good role. And the other is therapeutic. Now we see vaccine is going, because mutations and other vaccine was definitely a good help, but therapeutics where we have little.
Yes, we are talking of therapeutics only when Poini and Taslim spoke about the therapy. We are talking of therapeutics, but we are not limiting ourselves to COVID, we are talking of 5 years from now. Where is technology moving? And I know Dr. Madhusudan Rao, CCMB is doing a lot of work. So for the entire fraternity, I'll give you 30 seconds to close it, but I just want to say it is about how you want to position what ecosystem are you in, your micro ecosystem, then your cluster ecosystem, and the India ecosystem and the global ecosystem. Just position yourself right. You can do the SDG kind of work. You can do quick turnovers that you need small businesses, small innovations. You can focus on very high-end innovations depending on where you want to position your incubator. And today, what you do in your incubator, 2 years later, you need not do the same thing. Everyone progresses. But as the CEO of an incubator, I would request you to keep your eyes open for what's happening in the market, both in India and outside, so that you can plan your journey. Today, you can do something completely else, but as a leader, you have to be able to plan for tomorrow. I will end with a comment from Dr. Madhusudan Rao.
Thank you, ma'am. I agree with what has been said so far. Definitely, I think we should be like a chameleon in the sense that we should be able to adapt to the demands of the technologies and the things that are coming up. And in addition to what has been said about AI or CAR-T or these kind of things, we also put one of the focus we have is the organoids also, because there seems to be a lot of scope in that to reduce the to come up with the candidate molecules very quickly. That is one. And we are putting a bit of effort in mRNA in vitro translation systems right now. In fact, that program has been started. I'm sure, in my opinion, looking at the success of both these Modernas and Pfizer's, I think I'm not talking about COVID alone either. COVID may be I won't say low-hanging fruit, but it is a kind of one very prominent case to justify. But I'm sure there are so many therapies that can be addressed by.
It's a platform.
That's what I think we are going in that direction. We want to go as much deep science as possible. Of course, there are things like Me Too kind of technologies which are essential for many people to grow. We support them, but we also support the deep science. And remember, I very strongly remember these things require a much longer support systems. I think
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I think.
So we have to close because we have to hear other panels and other fantastic speakers that the team has worked and got together. So thank you so much, HTIC. Thank you, Muthu. Thank you, Archana. Thanks, all of you. And I'll close. Thanks, all the panelists.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for the conduct. Thank you.
Wonderful coordination. Thank you so much, Imran.
Thank you. Thank you, Sumit. Thank you, Taslimji.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the panel, for the wonderful panel discussion. And thank you, moderator Deepanvita ma'am, for the wonderfully moderating the session, and all the panel members for sharing your experience and insights with us. It is really great to hear from the great minds. Definitely insightful for all the startups out here. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you all the panel members for your time this morning. So with that, we'll move on to the startup demonstration. We have two startups lined up next to do the product demonstration. First, now I would like to invite Mr. Yash Nagarsheth, Director at C3 Prototypes Private Limited, to go ahead with his product demonstration. Over to you, Yash.
Hello everyone, good morning. Can you guys see me and hear me?
Yes, Yash, you're perfect.
So basically, I'm Yash, I'm the founder of C3 Medtech, and we've developed portable and affordable smartphone-based ophthalmic screening devices. So as you can see in the video, the one on my left is C3 Vision. It's a smartphone-based portable slit lamp. And this device, it's called C3 Fundus Cam. It's a smartphone-based fundus attachment. Both of these devices are portable, affordable, extremely lightweight. You can, carry them to any location to conduct the screening.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Yash. I think you'll have to, you blurred your background, so we cannot see the device.
You want me to bring the device closer?
No, the background has been blurred. Please change your settings, I think.
Okay.
Yes, your video settings, you have kept
Oh,
the
I'm
background as blur. Maybe you can.
Is it better now?
Yes, yes, it's perfect now.
So this is C3 Vision. It's a portable slit lamp, smartphone based. And this is C3 fundus cam. It's a portable fundus attachment. So both of these devices are portable, affordable. You can carry them anywhere to different resource limited location to conduct the screening. And they come in a very handy bag. This is the packaging of C3 Vision. You can fit the whole device in this and carry it anywhere. And this is the box for the fundus device. So basically what they do is with the help of a smartphone, this is the light source. You are able to do the anterior segment eye examination. So with the help of this device, you can diagnose diseases like cataract, corneal opacity, any kind of corneal infections, surface disorders. And the technician or the optometrist who has gone to the location, they can capture the images. They can share the image with the ophthalmologist or the specialist and get some kind of immediate diagnosis or plan of action if required for the betterment of the patient. And similarly, this is again for screening the retina. So you can diagnose diseases like diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, any kind of retinal detachment and retina disorders. So both of these devices are extremely easy to use. I'll just give you an example of how they are used. So the technician is holding the phone. The device rests on the forehead of the patient. You need to attach a ophthalmic lens. It's a 20 diopter lens. And you need to move the lens front and back to achieve the working distance and to capture the image of the retina. Similarly for C3 vision, the patient needs to touch their cheek onto the rest, and the blue cylinder you see over here is for rotating the light into the eye. And by rotating the light, you can highlight the features and capture the images to diagnose the disease. So I'll just share my screen and show you the results of the device. Archana, will I be able to share the screen?
Yes, Yash, you would be able to.
You guys can see the screen?
Yes, we could. Yes.
Yeah. So these are the images captured using C3 vision. This is a absolutely normal eye. This is an image of the retina captured through the fundus device. And this is also an example. This is it's a disease called a macular hole, as you can see here. So you can capture all the features, and these images can be used for diagnosis. And along with our device, we are also developing a smartphone application, which is a patient management system. So here you can see these are the screenshots of the app. So you can add all the patient information, the location, and the information of the person who's doing the screening. So this app can be very useful for telemedicine or for resource limited or screening, community screening, eye camps. So you can get all the information over here. And with the help of the device, with the help of the application, you can store the patient information. You can create a case. I'll show you a report also. So this is a report which you can create with our application. This is just a beta version which we have done. We are currently working on developing the app. So these are the images which are captured through the device. They are pasted on the report. This is the patient information. You can add their name, age, their contact information. This is the time and date of the examination. This is the person who has done the examination and contact number of the person. These are the images of the eye, and you can have your comments at the bottom. So if you diagnose any kind of disease or any inference which you have, you can write it down here, and this can be kept at the hospital or the clinic for record and data keeping. And you can also share it with the patient to educate them of their condition. And basically, you can show the patient images of what is wrong with them. You can track the progress of the whole disease by taking images at different stages of the treatment to show the patient whether it's the results of the treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, Yash. Thank you so much for the demonstration. Now we would invite Sridhar, CEO, and Sundar, CMO from Ubicare Health Private Limited, to go ahead with their startup demonstration. Over to you, sir.
Hi, Archana. Thank you. Sundar, you'll share the presentation. We have 10 minutes, right, Archana?
Yes, sir. You just have. Yes, sir.
So, good morning, everyone. Thank you. And I'll take 5 minutes to tell about ourselves, and then another 5 minutes of some of the snapshots of the screens we are actually going to showcase. It was interesting.
This is okay?
Yeah, this is okay. Thank you. It was an interesting panel discussion which talked about therapeutics. I mean, we are into kind of digital therapeutics. What we do, we enable specialty medical care to home. We have 5 founders, 3 technologies, and 2 healthcare professionals. We are supported by BIRAC, CCAM, Social Alpha, Ethel Startups. Recently, we have actually been recognized as one of the 5 top palliative care startup solutions impacting healthcare sector globally by Start US.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You can please go.
So, Sundar, next slide, please.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't hear you in between. Okay.
You have to share.
Yeah. No, you not sharing?
No, not sharing. Shall I take it up actually otherwise?
Seems to be some problem.
Let me just take it up.
Yeah. I started. Okay. Can you see this now?
Yeah. So what the problem we are solving is looking at the unmet need of follow-up care. Typically chronic patients, cancer, stroke, chronic pulmonary cardiac, and right now COVID, mildly symptomatic, or those discharged after treatment hospitals require follow-up care. Could be from the time of 2 weeks to maybe years. A lot of doctors and specialists want to control treatment outcomes. They want to continue to connect to the patients and retain the patient's loyalty, whereas the patients would like to have improved health outcomes as well as reduced hospital visits. Next visit. So our solution combines technology, is a hybrid solution. Next slide, where we actually combine a technology for having this connectivity between the patient and doctor, a care platform, what we call, which actually gives clinical telepresence, clinical protocol and workflows are implemented, and a physical touch, primarily because a last mile clinical network, either by the hospital or by a partner network ecosystem, which actually does the physical touch. So this can be applied to step down, post-op, end of life, right now for COVID care too. Next slide. This is the details of the technology below. So we have actually building on top of a EHR stack. We are building on top of a telemedicine platform, wherein you can talk about the yellow lines, which we said clinical monitoring, care protocols, clinical workflows, and the specialty healthcare services, what we are bringing onto the table. And that's what we've implemented and we have used it. And today I'm going to show some of the screenshots for COVID care. We are looking at adding on top of it, and the previous panel talked about the importance of AI/ML. So we are looking at putting it as an anticipatory care protocol on top of that. And with protocol orchestration, collaboration manager, and immersive clinical telepresence are going to build on top of as a stack. So this is a multi-tenancy EHR stack. The entire thing is going to be based on cloud. We have used this in the last 3 years to serve more than 300 plus patients with over 10,000 patient days of care. And recently, this has been used by one of the hospitals, multi-specialty hospital, to extend COVID care as well as other cares to the platform. So this is what we have done so far. So let's go to the next slide. Next slide. So what we talk about is the value proposition is, of course, it reduces the hospital visits and improves the patient outcomes. We are looking, and the specialists are able to retain the patients as well as retain the trust. And more specifically for hospital settings, it'll optimize the financial issues, financial care, where optimize the average length of stay and average revenue per occupied bed. Primarily, we're looking at ensuring that 90% hospital visits can be avoided, with more than 50% of the disease burden which can be managed. And the same thing is true for COVID care too. Next slide. This is our workflow, which is implemented on a platform. As you can see, it is a collaborative workflow, which involves including the patient itself, the specialist, the UB care, and other partners included together. It is the top view of the workflow, wherein when the patient is admitted into the system, the clinical and the monitoring, supervision, and the care flows is what we provide as UB care. The specialist is able to use it to ensure, and this part of care, decision to extend and exit, can last from 2 weeks to years. Next slide. I will actually show you few of the snapshots of the screenshots, both on the mobile end. We have the doctor side is on the web platform, web application. On the patient side is a mobile application. So right is the patient, left is the doctor. So typically an appointment can be booked both by the patient and the doctor. And this is typically like what any tele consultation platform actually provides. But we built care on top of that. So next slide will actually show that. This is an appointment booking. Next slide. So in a pre-consult stage, the previous slide, the pre-consult stage, on the patient side, patient can enter the vital entry, the health condition entry. Today, the entry is manual. Our platform is capable enough even to actually integrate with devices, wherein this can be automated in terms of the entries can be automated there. This is how the data is seen on the doctor's side, whatever the patient enters on the screen. Next slide. Like I mentioned, one of our multi-specialty hospitals using it for COVID care, St. John's. I'm using St. John's, thanks to St. John's for allowing us to use this slide for demonstrating this. This is how the doctor views once the doctor logs in. The appointments, the dashboard, you can see the appointments, what are the today's appointments, and the left side gives the whole lot of mechanism how the doctor can actually look into. Next slide. Doctor can have a consolidated view of the patient in the dashboard. The patient names are all removed off. You can see whatever has been captured and the highlighted ones which are varying in red color. So in one consolidated view, doctor is able to make out who are the people who needs more critical attention. And this is how incoming triaging actually is done by the doctor post any supervisor who's entered the patient data into the system. Next slide. The doctor can actually go into a whole lot of icons where a whole lot of stuff with respect to the patient, which is captured by the junior doctors or a supervisor. And each of this view will give a different health indicator parameters of the patient for the care or the follow-up care to be provided on top of whatever investigation which has been done. Next slide. The doctor actually gets into the appointment by actually clicking into this thing. And so maybe we'll go to the next slide. And once he does it, this is the view how the patient side will actually look into and how the doctor side will look into. So we'll actually go to the next slide. So the doctor will actually, this is in a doctor view. The doctor is actually looking at the patient, and on the top right corner would be the doctor. You can see himself there too. And in case the patient has not joined the platform, the doctor can actually notify the patient, and that a message will go on the message. Clicking on the message, the patient will eventually be brought into the AV platform. This is the typical clinical note which a doctor can enter. Next slide. This is the triage forms. So there are several triage forms. I'm actually just showing one of the things for the COVID triage form. So as soon as the patient consultation is done, that can be done by a nurse or any supervisor. It can capture all the different details with respect to the cough, cold, and all different parameters, and based on which the system will actually indicate the thing on the patient dashboard, which I showed earlier, to a doctor as to what could be the next steps the doctor can actually see. So whichever is highlighted as red is something which doctor can actually look into. This is the details of additional COVID triage form, which a supervisor can actually look into. Next. This is both the patient view and the doctor view. So post the consultation, the doctor can update the prescription, and the prescription is actually uploaded by the doctor, and the patient can actually look into the prescription on his end and do the needful. Now, one of the things which actually happens is each of the forms, there are different forms here. I've actually showcased only a few set of forms. The different forms, the input triage form, the follow-up care forms, the different forms which actually put in, which the patient and the doctor and all the collaborative clinical team can have a view to actually proceed on a care flow to what is required for a patient post-discharge to be taken care of. And this is how the patient will view at his end. Next. These are some of the patient testimonials. So the patients have appreciated the kind of things which I've done. Next. This is a testimonial by a senior specialist. Next. This is the testimonial for St. John Hospital for COVID. This was taken last year when they had crossed about 50 COVID patients, which they have triaged using the platform. They have actually found it very useful for doing the triage and the collaborative workflow between the nurses and the doctors to take care of the mildly symptomatic or those patients who have been discharged post-care. This is the team. We have, like I said, we have been ranked as one of the top 5 political solutions among 191 startups. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ubicare team, for the demonstration. With that, we'll now move on to the first expert talk for the morning. The first expert session is on emerging trends in advanced artificial intelligence, and the speaker for the session is Mr. Vivek Singhal, co-founder and chief data scientist at Cellstrat. We welcome you, sir. Over to you for the session.
All right, thanks a lot for that intro. Let me share my screen here. Also started my video. I suppose you can see me now.
Yes, sir, we could able to see you.
Actually, let me just turn off the video. So let's get going. I think I have about 20 minutes. So let me address my topic here, emerging trends in AI, machine learning, and deep learning. I run Cellstrat. We are an AI research lab. And so our focus is on researching advanced artificial intelligence. There have been a lot of statements by top CEOs, of course, that AI is the main thing going forward, and it has incredible power. A lot has been said, so I won't discuss further. So we are an AI startup, and we do AI research. We are a training company, and we are also a research company. So we do a lot of research in advanced areas like computer vision, natural language processing, graph neural networks, evolutionary algorithms, meta learning, etc. This is me, and I will not spend too much time on that. Let me address the main topic here, which is trends in AI and ML. Right. So as we know, AI is about simulating human intelligence in machines, and ML is a branch of AI which allows us to train AI agents with the help of data science or mathematical algorithms. And deep learning, of course, refers to the more advanced or specialized form of ML, which uses artificial neural networks, right? And so the applications of AI are absolutely mind-boggling and infinite, really. So you can use it in robotics, vision, NLP, image processing, text, healthcare, of course, self-driving cars, data analytics, mining, credit scoring, fraud, banking, asset predictions, weather predictions, agriculture, public sector. I mean, the list is quite endless, as we know. So this shows the segregation of the 3 areas. So when people sometimes get confused with between AI and data science, so roughly they mean the same thing. There is a fine line difference probably, but for practical purposes, we can assume data science and AI are same or interrelated at least. Data science may encompass few other areas also, which are related to the data aspects of it. I unfortunately missed the previous sessions here. I don't know if these terms have been defined. So ML, ML is about finding the relationships. Okay, so I have 15 minutes here. Thanks for letting me know. So ML is about finding the relationship between input X and output Y, right? So that's what basic machine learning is. Or I mean, this equation itself is the AI model or the trained ML model. So given lots of historical data sets, XY pairs, we want to reverse engineer and find the relationship between X and Y. And this is what AI is. So once we have found this equation by observing historical data, then we can predict Y for any new input X, right? So that is basic way the ML works. And deep learning takes it a step further, where we use these complex neural network architectures inspired from biological aspects of the human brain, and we, instead of having one ML computation unit, we have these structures of neurons, which basically progressively discover features in my input data set. So for more complex applications such as image processing or speech or text modeling, driverless cars, or complex healthcare solutions, we like to use deep learning neural networks, and classic ML does not give us the requisite accuracy or desired accuracy. So let me show you some emerging trends. So I'll go really fast because I got only 15 minutes here. So we see robotics in COVID-19. We have seen enough deployments of robots by various startups. We see satellite imagery and camera image processing, for example, to count the retail footfall in a mall from a camera, or count the number of cars or assets on the ground from satellite imagery. As not only autonomous driving but also assisted driving for senior citizens, or alcoholic driving situations, and of course insurance adjustments using visual imagery. So these all can be done with help of advanced computer vision algorithms. And this is showing generative modeling, where we can produce all kinds of content. In future, we see AI displacing all kinds of content creators, whether it be artists or movie producers, writers, authors, right? So all kinds of content can be produced with AI going forward, and increasingly it's becoming more and more sophisticated to do a very good job of it. Initially, we were not getting good results, but now increasingly we see more sophisticated results. So here we are doing a art solution where we are able to superimpose the style from one photo on another using style transfer algorithm. We can use it for asset price predictions, such as stock market, oil, gold, etc. We can use it for any kind of time series model. And I mean, some of these solutions were solved with traditional statistical models like ARIMA, SARIMA, but now we have more sophisticated deep learning based solution to solve it. And so all the financial services companies are applying this for asset price predictions, of course. And we can also use it for natural language processing, these kind of neural network architectures. And of course, for any kind of movement, such as the movement of a rocket in space, we can do time series modeling. We can use advanced deep learning for natural language processing. Here we are showing a text summarization solution, where we can do auditing and reports or regulatory compliance. We can summarize long form text into short form text, and such a kind of literature review finds prime usage in pharmaceutical. And I'll demonstrate some pharma applications of AI shortly to you in production on our cloud. So driverless vehicles, computer vision for retail, inventory management, and emotion analytics in a store, or real-time demand forecasting, or supply chain optimizations. So AI finds usage in the entire retail supply chain, right from the store or the web to the backend manufacturer. We are applying variety of AI for real-time or just-in-time inventory management and supply chain management. We can use it for motion analytics, like for sports analytics, using pose estimation protocols, which are useful for cinematography, virtual reality, self-driving vehicles, or fashion e-commerce as well, such as Myntra and all. So this is showing variety of computer vision techniques, where we are able to identify objects in images or localize them or identify their location or count the number of objects in images of various nature, right? So this is used for agriculture, for public sector, things like COVID-19 mask detection from public sector cameras, from the public government cameras, or defense applications, and all variety of vision applications. Your face recognition and your automatic image tagging in your Insta photos. Here we show a driverless car, which has lots of cameras on its dashboard, and it is inspecting the view around it, and we have various algorithms to do a driverless car computer vision aspect of it. So then it can use it for decision analytics and figure out how it should drive by itself. These solutions are being tested in advanced countries like the US by Tesla and Google, and at some point we might see it in India in controlled environments, maybe not on a broader environment in India. So of course, healthcare is a huge use case. So segmenting, chest X-ray images or CT scans and so forth. I'll actually demo this, so I'll spend more time on this. And then, of course, shop floor productivity for robots and robotic arms. So similar thing as robotic arm surgery, we can also use for shop floor automation. Even vaccine companies like Pfizer and AstraZeneca are using robotic arms to actually mix and match molecules and discover vaccines. So there are new techniques like reinforcement learning, where we are able to model, for example, games or robots or automatic energy management systems, or even stock market portfolio and mutual funds. So this is a technique called reinforcement learning, a newer technique relatively, where we are able to do rewards-based learning. So it's a pretty big area. I'm just going really, really fast. If you have any questions, do let me know. And this is just showing a time series model and demand forecasting scenarios for, let's say, retail demand and so forth. So you can see different kinds of seasonality patterns or static or growing demand, and we can model this with recurrent neural networks or other kinds of neural network architectures. So shop floor management. So I'm kind of going really fast in interest of time. Now let me go to the more interesting part of my presentation, where I'll actually show you some running demos. If you have any questions, meanwhile, please feel free to ask. So let me show you. So this we already saw. So this is a sort of a driverless cars, GIF file. So this is how we train. Basically, this is called semantic image segmentation, where from the camera feeds coming from a video of cars. So we are basically segmenting the scenery in front of us, so the car can take appropriate driving decisions. If you notice, it is coloring the various objects in different color code to identify their locational aspects. So this is computer vision AI. And let me also show you an application of a reinforcement learning for gaming. So this racing car is trying to stay on this pathway, and then it scores points. So this is a gaming environment, and we use a set of environments by a company called OpenAI, which was founded by Elon Musk, to train various kind of gaming simulators. So this can be used for video games. It can also be used for simulating other reinforcement learning situations, such as stock market portfolios or robots or driverless cars, etc. So let me continue with some of my more demos here. That probably is a very interesting part. So recently we had a defense presentation, so we were able to show certain applications. So here you see what we call as a pose estimation algorithm, and this can be used for defense sector, of course, for checking the movement of the forces, but it can also be used for motion picture, augmented reality, or in general, e-commerce, etc., or video analytics. Of course, IPL and sports team, they are beginning to now engage analytics teams to actually analyze the sports behavior and try to apply more data science to it. Right. So in the interest of time, I'm going really fast here. Let me try to show you a few more. Yeah, this is a healthcare, conference. So I like to show you some healthcare use cases. So the number of use cases in healthcare for AI is absolutely kind of infinite. This is a small subset of what we can do with AI and machine learning in healthcare, right? So I'm sure a lot of you can attest to these, and being from healthcare industry, many of you have tried some of these solutions or working on them. So we can, of course, use it for, slides, blood slides, microscope, breast cancer detection or prostate cancer, and so on, and pharmaceutical literature data mining. So text summarizer, translation chatbots, doctor assistants, and named entity extraction, like molecular discovery across literature, and so on. So now let me, I think I'm running out of time, so let me quickly show you the final product platform. So we actually have a healthcare technology stack with AI. So this is what it looks like. It's on our AWS cloud. You can in fact create a login and check it out. So we have developed a COVID-19 chest X-ray analyzer. So you can see what it is doing here. I've uploaded some chest X-ray images, and it's trying to identify the probability of COVID versus pneumonia versus normal, right? So, and you can of course see the problem areas, which we refer to as explainable AI in the AI word. So this is a COVID-19 detector, and the same thing can be done with a chest CT scan as well. So here also we are trying to detect COVID from CT scans of the chest, and we can again segment the image to see the problem areas. So this is a diabetic retinopathy detection. Early detection of diabetic retinopathy can, say, help in critical eye saving solutions, right, from fundus scans. So we are able to predict proliferative diabetic retinopathy with some confidence score. So these are health tech applications we have actually deployed on our AWS cloud, and in future we plan to develop a go-to-market where we'll be demonstrating this to healthcare providers and see if they are interested in trying these out. So far it has been a development stage, and next will come the go-to-market stage. So this is showing 3 kinds of brain tumor from brain MRI scans, and a lot of you are healthcare experts, so I'm sure you have far more expertise on the medical aspects of it than I have. So we have applied lots of advanced computer vision techniques. This is various kinds of dermatological tumors or cancers, skin cancer detection. Let me show you a couple of NLP applications on pharma literature. So you can see here that from a given medical or pharma literature, we are identifying key entities like disease names or molecule names and so forth. Because today the pharma industry is deploying lots of pharmacists to read through millions of documents. So this clearly needs automation, and with NLP we can do that. So this was created because we got some requirement from some pharmaceutical companies. So we still have to take it back to them for adoption. So here we are showing a disease prediction from a medical literature text, and we are predicting top 5 diseases, right? So which are likely to be referred or indirectly referred in this medical literature. We can do drug safety reporting. We have an adverse event reporting solution now, which has been the case with various COVID vaccinations. There have been adverse event reports. We can do literature search on millions of pharma documents, and it can find, given an input text, it can find matching text using semantic text matching, and then it can point to the relevant source of that pharma literature as well. So I'll kind of stop it here in interest of time because I was giving 15 minutes. So if any questions, I can take them now.
Thank you, sir. At the interest of time, we'll just take one question in the chat box, a quick question. Anything about contextual AI? A question from Mr. Raj Parik.
I'm trying to understand what you mean by contextual AI. Maybe I have not come across that term. I mean, everything in AI is in context of the data, right? Everything in AI is given the environmental context or the data context. So if you, does it work on it?
This is Raj. I had read something a long time ago where you could put in a whole article and the synopsis could be given. It's something like a text summarizer, I guess.
Yeah, that we
But
already have. So we
yeah,
can
but
summarize
it's
text.
something more elaborate. I'll try to reach out to you with the exact company which was doing that.
Sure.
What I could understand from that is if you could put in a whole novel, 300, 400 pages, it will give you the synopsis. So I just wanted to know
Yeah,
how
definitely,
practical
definitely.
it is. Is it possible by you?
I mean,
And
if it is very long form text, that could lead to some accuracy issues, but short form literature, we are already summarizing, right? In fact, we
okay,
are also able to do multimodal learning for healthcare. So we can take radiological scans and
okay,
we can take some medical literature written by the doctor. We can
okay,
combine them to develop an insightful report, right? So we can do automatic report generation. In fact,
okay,
in adverse event solution reporting also, we are doing that. From variety of literature, we are combining, creating an adverse event report for regulatory compliance.
okay.
So there's a lot of power in AI now, but yes, it's becoming better to handle more complex data sets.
I have one more question. So every time you
So
do the search, will it become more improved? The
So,
accuracy of outcome?
so we have a concept of incremental learning in AI. So we need
Okay,
to actually implement that. So
okay,
where as more data gets fed into the system, it will keep improving, right,
okay,
its results. So that like Amazon Alexa is constantly listening to our conversations in India and
okay.
is improving on Indian accent. So incremental learning is possible, yes.
All right. Thank you
Uh,
so much. Thank you
yeah,
so much.
thank you, Mr. Raj, and thank you, Mr. Vivek, for sharing your insights with us. Please do stay with us as we'll be moving on to the next panel shortly. Now, I would now invite the next expert session speaker. The next expert session is on emerging trends in blockchain for healthcare. I would invite Ms. Darshana Parmar Jain, partner and CEO from Snaper Future Tech, to go ahead with the session. So sorry, ma'am. So we're running late. So we'll stick to the 15-minute slot as we agreed earlier. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate IIT Madras and Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science for organizing this. I really enjoyed Vivek's presentation. I think it was really an eye-opener to see the kind of work that's going on. To cover what blockchain is doing, I'm going to just walk you through a quick presentation, makes it easier. If you can just tell me if my screen is visible. Is my screen visible?
No, ma'am, we couldn't able to see us. Yeah, it's up now. Yeah.
Okay. You're able to see the presentation?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. Yeah, we could able to.
Thank you. So my company is Snapper Future Tech. We are a startup about 3.5 years old. And that's as old as blockchain is. So blockchain is about, enterprise blockchain is about 4.5 years old. Our company does blockchain services and products. We also teach blockchain. And as part of our journey, some of the things we've discovered is, and for me, what is very important is that you always follow the trends. If the big guys are putting money somewhere, then there is some potential to it. And the kind of technology movement we are seeing with IBM, Linux, all of the tech giants pouring in money into the blockchain, not just architecture, framework, the technology, and the products. It kind of shows where it's going. And I'm saying that because it is so nascent and so new, but it is just in a phase where now mass adoption is going to happen. So these are just some of the snippets of what the giants out there are looking at blockchain to be. And we are at a stage where it is now going to go to mass adoption. So I'm just going to cover a short bit of what is blockchain, because I find that a lot of people, the word, you've read it, you've seen it, So blockchain essentially is a distributed network. You have your centralized networks, we have decentralized networks. Blockchain is a distributed network. It's a peer-to-peer. How it works, if someone were to issue a transaction, let's say to save a patient record, there is different nodes at different places in that particular network, whether it's a private or a public blockchain. And then these nodes will validate that transaction, agree, create a new block, and that block gets added to the chain, and therefore the word blockchain. So it's a very it works on the consensus method, and I'll cover why blockchain is becoming so important. Does conventional technology not address all of the things that blockchain can do? So yes, conventional technology can automate, it can secure records, it can do everything online. There is auditability of documents. All of that is there. But there are challenges. Conventional technology does not connect an entire ecosystem. We use technology within the company. When you want to go outside your company network, right, and you're talking to somebody else, your networks are talking to another network, you don't know whether you can trust that data. How do you bring that trust? And that is what blockchain brings in. It actually brings in trust because of its immutable design. You cannot change data once it's gone onto blockchain. It is transparent because it's consensus. Every node in that network needs to agree. And there is disintermediation with smart contracts. So the concept of having these contracts that are on the nodes, and each of these contracts has to agree with each other. So by nature, the technology blockchain is used to for trust between two networks. So essentially what it brings, it can manage risk, it can minimize fraud, it makes data very efficient. There's of course the protection and privacy. Stakeholder transparency is of utmost importance, and I think in this entirely new digital world that we are in, trusting the data or the networks that we are talking to becomes very important. I'm giving you a little bit of background on blockchain to tell you where we are. In January, India came out with its national blockchain strategy. What does it mean? The country is actually going to set up an entire framework. At the bottom, if you see these red nodes, that's what the country will set up. Right above that, if you look at the property chain, health chain, smart city chain, education chain, insurance chain, all of these chains are going to be developed. So sooner or later, whether you like it or not, you're going to be on blockchain. So healthcare chain is going to be a chain of its own, where all of the hospitals are connected, where your diagnostic centers are connected. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit ahead. So this is where India stands today. More than 50 countries have actually adopted blockchain into their governance. So that's how important it is. Now, the prominent use cases across domains are many. And like Vivek also mentioned, AI, some of a very small subset is what he showed. I'm actually showing you a very small subset of health and pharma as to what it can do, blockchain. So in terms of use cases, I've listed out a few here, like blockchain in electronic health records, patient data, patient provider interaction, clinical trials. Now, there could be data tampering in clinical trials. So it makes blockchain very important there, right? Healthcare industry is rapidly embracing technology, and it's the next frontier for blockchain, essentially. What it represents is an opportunity for unprecedented level of privacy and security for all stakeholders. And this it does while maintaining global data protection standards. So the healthcare market, the blockchain healthcare technology market, is forecasted to grow at a CAGR of about 72% from 2020 to 2027. That's how big it's going to be. So every tech out there eventually, like if you look at IoT devices and any of these wearables, they create data, right? This data is then stored on blockchain, is a mechanism to store data. And then AI, ML, all of these technologies are consuming that data. So that's where blockchain fits into the technology stack, if you will. Now, genetics, tracking medical devices. There was this one company talking to us about, their software processes talk to these medical devices that are installed, and they need the processes to trust each other because there could be hacking in there. So therefore, blockchain is used between two processes, not between two humans interacting, but between the processes to know that yes, this process is authentic and it has not been tampered with. So these kind of applications are finding their way into healthcare, blood banks, or even doctor review systems. Plenty. I'm going to cover a couple here. Neuroscience is something that's really coming up strong and fast, where all of the data is getting stored onto blockchain. So I'm covering two things here. I'm going to show you a e-governance like a solution, and I'll show you a EHR, electronic healthcare record solution. So this is a platform that we have called Snapcert. It is essentially used for uploading credentials, your degree credentials, or any of your mark sheets or whatever by universities on blockchain. Now, the same thing can actually be implemented for medical degrees. Now, there are a lot of exams that medical professionals take, and they need to then upgrade or keep up with their licenses, medical licenses. All of that issue can happen on a document platform like this, which is blockchain based. So this then ensures that there is no fraud, there are no false medical degrees out there, or medical licenses have lapsed and not been renewed or reissued. Similarly, if we look at technology, like any of the tech that you see out there is fairly siloed, right? Like a hospital will have a hospital management system. Your diagnostic center will have its own system, but none of them are talking to each other, right? So a healthcare platform on blockchain would really eliminate any redundancy and connect the entire network via trust. Now, patient owns his own data, right? So there are multiple problem areas that we see in healthcare and health insurance, both. Now, loss of data, medical records, patient protection, even transfer of medical data, it's very, very fragmented. Now, considering this, the whole thing that gets hampered is the customer trust and your customer engagement. So if we were to look at an integrated healthcare platform where patient, hospital, labs, doctor, insurer, regulator, your diagnostic, everyone is on this platform, talking through this platform. Now, each of them own their own data. The data doesn't need to come on the blockchain platform. What the blockchain does is maintain the hash of the data, so that whenever there is a transaction or a patient has this record which he wants to share with a doctor, then he gives the consensus to do so, and the nodes will then agree and allow the share. Each of these patients have their, so this is done through a self-sovereign identity. So there is a decentralized identifier which is used in blockchain, the concept of that. And that is what enables this entire ecosystem to talk to each other through that one single identifier. In healthcare insurance also, right now, claims management or sales and distribution, policy underwriting, policy issuing, all of this is looking at blockchain. And we're talking to multiple hospitals who are wanting to put this on blockchain. So there are many, many advantages and solution benefits. So there is role-based authentication, compliances, system efficiency. All of these come as part of the technology itself. So this is just a short overview, and I hope I haven't overrun my time, of what blockchain can do in healthcare. I'm open to any questions that there may be.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the session. So in the interest of time, we'll just take one quick question from the chat box. So the question is, what are the risks of blockchain technology? So with that one question, we'll just go.
There are some, like, blockchain is still nascent. So there are risks, but there are some things to consider, like, scalability, interoperability between the blockchain networks. So these are some of the things that are still in works, but the technology has progressed so much in the last 1 year. You know, Hyperledger is one of the largest enterprise applications that we see. And the technology has progressed quite a bit to even look at scalability. So financial services has millions of transactions per second happening on the blockchain network. So
yeah,
I see another question, sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. So we do have some of the questions in the chat box. Maybe we can take it during a panel discussion. Anyways, we'll be having the same, the AI, ML, and blockchain and healthcare. So we'll take up those questions in our panel discussion, considering the time. So thank you so much, ma'am, for the session. Please stay with us till the panel discussions, since you're also a panel member for the same. So with that, we'll now move on to the next two startup demonstration. Now I invite Mr. Palniappan, co-founder and CEO from Mozero Health Solution, to go ahead with your startup demonstration. Mr. Palniappan, you're on. You're on mute. Please unmute yourself and please go ahead with the demo. I think there's some issue with this connectivity. Maybe I'll check and we'll get back. With that, we'll move on to the next startup who will be doing this demo. Now I would invite Mr. Ramanathan Srinivasan, Chief Strategy Officer from SASTI, to go ahead with the startup demonstration. Sir, you're on mute.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Archana and HTIC for the opportunity. We are Mozero Health Solutions. We are a digital health company working on three aspects. I'll play a quick introduction about our company, what we focus on and our products, and then give a quick product demo on that. Sharing my screen. So that's our vision. We are looking to improve the quality of care, patient convenience by using medical data, and also add in the allied services by bringing in pharmacy, home delivery, lab, home collections, and all that to the patient's doorstep. So three-prong approach, improving standard of care using EMR data, using that for patient engagement, and also the transaction. So we work with three products. The first product is Your Sugar. It's a diabetes management platform. Curula is all chronic and subchronic management platform. Convenient Care is a white labeled application that we use for integrating with large hospitals. So that's our video. So as Mozero Health organization, as Mozero Health, we work both in primary care, secondary care, and tertiary care. We have products linked for all of them. We do not focus on the clinic management and hospital management side of things. We in fact integrate with most of the hospital management systems to provide patient convenience and improvement in the standard of care. So when we say standard of care, we've got like more than 500 odd treatment algorithms which enable doctors to make decisions better. We also have the entire drug interaction where when the doctor is making a prescription along with the patient's history of diseases, comorbidities, it would suggest to the doctor what sort of medications are contraindicative and non-contraindicative. So that's on the intelligence side of things. Now the same data is used for creating a patient treatment journey. So for example, a diabetic with a foot care would need a different kind of follow-up between two visits compared to a diabetic with a cardio care. So currently, as a startup, we are 3.5 years old. We've got diabetes completely, the patient engagement on the diabetes side completely done. Cardiology, orthopedics, and gynecology and surgical gastroenterology are 4 departments that we have got complete data on. We are working on another 6 or 8 other segments. Now all the 3 products have the same base, just that the focus, the target market is different. One is diabetology clinics, the other is other primary care clinics and polyclinics, which are focusing towards orthopedics, pediatrics, and gynecology. And the third one is the secondary care hospitals. So that is Mozero Health Solutions in short. If you have any questions, happy to take them.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Palaniappan. Thank you for the demo. Any questions, we would come back if there is any question. Now we'll move on to the next demo. Now I'd invite Mr. Ramanathan Srinivasan. Please go ahead with the demo. So.
Thank you, Archana. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for spending this time here. Just going to share my presentation. Are you guys able to see the screen?
Yes, sir, we could. Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so a quick background about us. The core focus for Zasti when we started was, look, one of the key questions people ask us is, why another AI startup? Right? I mean, we have millions of AI startups going across the world. So when we started Zasti 3.5 years back, our focus was something very niche, where we wanted to look at custom building AI models for the pharma and the healthcare industry. That was a core focus. The fundamental difference is that you have SaaS companies which build model and then they sell it. The problem with that is the client doesn't have the IP, right? So you take a Google AI, you upload the data, they become better and better, you get nothing back, right? And then on the other extreme, you have companies like H2O, which has got a platform, and they give that platform to you, but you need to recruit your data science guys to train it. So we fall in between these two guys in a niche segment. What we do is we have our own proprietary platform, but what we do is when a client has a need, we custom build an AI model for them in almost 30% less time and less cost. So that's a key area that we started. One of our first solution was on clinical trial. But before we went into clinical trial, the question that always kept coming to us is, how do we know your models work, right? So we asked the question to ourselves, right? Because startups can tell many things, but how do you prove that that's what you are, right? So we went around where we participated in numerous international competitions till now. I think we have won almost 47 awards till date. These are some of the representative awards. The one that I'm very personally and professionally we are proud of is with Lloyd's of London. In their AI contest, we submitted our three AI algorithms, and it came first, second, and fourth. So that was a very proud moment for Zasti. The next very important turning point for us came with the National Cancer Institute in the US. So there was a very interesting contest where we were to predict the pancreatic patients' survival rates. Right? And this is very prestigious because we are not talking about just universities competing in this challenge. You had some of the top-notch Chinese universities competing there. And we all know how data is quite available in China, unlike us, right? So when we came first in the MICAI challenge in National Cancer Institute, it was it opened up multiple doors for us, and in the US market, it gave us an identity for us to look at, right? So that's how the validation started. Now, okay, I keep talking about this validation. What is that we are doing? What is this AI about? Some of you might know, some of you might not. So I'm just going to give a quick background. Clinical trial is a very expensive industry, and we are seeing that in the COVID scenario, right? So many questions were raised. How can something be approved so fast? right? How do we know that this coaxin does not have any side effects? Is AstraZeneca's, a jab that is coming in, is there a problem? Are people dying because of it? Like, there's so many questions. This is what we call as adverse reaction, right? And adverse reaction is the #1 challenge when it comes to clinical trial. And pharma companies spend almost billions of dollars, and they actually spend 6 to 7 years before they bring medicine into the market. Now, what if we could cut this down in a scientific, factual, and evidence-based model, right? So that's the journey that we started. We won the contest with ARCAD. ARCAD is one of the largest custodian of colorectal cancer. So they were working with Mayo Clinic, and our AI model was 40% more accurate than the existing legacy AI model that they were using. So we started working with them 2 years back. We have processed almost billion plus data points, I would say 40 years of data, through which we built a clinical trial prediction model. Just because it's afternoon time and all you guys are sleeping, I'm just going to show you a quick demo of how it looks instead of you looking at a boring PowerPoint. So if you look at it, this is a simulated clinical trial. A particular trial has got 3 arms. The key point here is the average survival. This is what the AI predicts. Now, if the pharma company was, their KPI was 16 months is the average survival without adverse reaction leading to death or something, then this particular clinical trial is doing really well because the AI is predicting it's going to go for 18 months, survival duration. But what if these guys had 24 months as their target? Then what the AI is saying is, hey, looks like this is going to fail. In 18 months, you're going to have severe adverse reaction of patients, right? So the question people ask is, how are we doing that? So I'll just give you guys a glimpse. I can talk about this for the next 5 hours. So let me show an interesting patient. Okay, so what we do is we take data, both structured and unstructured data. Unstructured data comes from doctor notes. Structured data comes from pathological reports, CT scans. So we have built a multivariable deep learning network. So what you're seeing is this patient has a severe liver cancer, but we also have all kinds of data coming from lung, CNS, lymph node, and everything. So that's presented here. This is actually a dashboard a clinical trial research scientist looks at in a pharma company when they use our product. Now, what the AI is saying is, one of the adverse reaction it's predicting is diarrhea, but you can also see that's also happened. So the AI is able to identify it early. And one of the other prediction is the max grade is 3. And that also seems to be in reality. Right? This is a completed clinical trial. Right? So this is a key way how we collate the data of so many patients. And at a single patient level, we go ahead and predict, what is the adverse reaction? When, because of this adverse reaction, what is going to be the impact on an arm? And because of that impact on an arm, what is going to be the impact on a trial? Now, once we do that, the pharma company, and more specifically, the clinical trial, head of the clinical trial who's sponsoring it, they can make informed decision whether they want to continue a particular arm or they might want to reassess that particular arm. So this helps them actually to reduce 30 to 40% of the money, the cost, the time. See, and more importantly, in the pharma parlance, it's not the cost that you save, it's the opportunity that you have lost. So if I can pull out $1 million from a particular arm and actually reinvest it into something more successful, that's the value of money we are talking about. And one of the very recent stuff that we came out, we learned last week that our clinical trial model is now officially patented. We got the patent approval a week back. It's been approved across all the countries in the globe. So this is a major achievement for us, not just for us, for the IIT HTIC ecosystem, because this patent for me is not just what Zasti has achieved, it's the ecosystem that is achieved. With that, I wanted to say thanks to all you guys and open for any question.
Thank you so much, sir, for the demonstration. If there is any questions in the chat box, we will let you know. So as for now, there's no questions. So we'll come back to you in case of any questions. Thank you so much, sir, for both startups for the demonstration. We'll now move on to the second panel discussion for the conclave. The second panel discussion is on AI, ML, and blockchain in healthcare. We have the moderator for the session, Ms. Padma Chandrasekharan, former president, SIFI, founder and CEO of Multi-Tenancy Ehr, and also an angel investor. Very happy to have you here, ma'am. You're being a constant support to HTIC. Also mentored many startups from HTIC before and also been supported many such events from HTIC. So very happy to have you here, ma'am. And introducing the panel members, Ms. Darshana Parmar Jain, partner and CEO, Snap of Future Tech, Mr. Vivek Singhal, co-founder and chief data scientist at Cellstrat, Dr. Shatak Bakshi, International Fertility Center CEO and co-founder, Mr. Badri Narayanan Gopalakrishnan, who's co-founding partner and director at Infusum. Happy to have you here, sir. He's from US and currently it's 2 a.m. for him in the morning. So very happy for having you here, sir, with us in the panel. And Mr. Krishna Rastogi, Associate Director from Association of Data Scientists. Happy to have you all here. Over to Padma ma'am for the proceedings of the session.
Yeah, okay.
Ma'am,
No, got it. Yeah, I unmuted. I'm not really familiar with Google Meet. I'm so used to using Zoom. Anyway, 3 cheers for Badri, who's joining us at 2 a.m. in the morning. Welcome, Badri.
Thank you.
And
Thank
welcome all the others on the panel. I know Archana gave a very, very quick one-line introduction about everybody, but I thought it might be useful for each of you to speak for about 20 seconds about yourselves and say what it is you're doing and why you're doing it, etc., etc. And then after that, we have two disparate sets of topics. Blockchain is one thing entirely, and AI ML is another thing entirely. And so I thought we should separate the discussions on the two. And we will take it on the fly. We'll do blockchain first briefly, and then we'll do AI ML after that, if you don't mind. So maybe you can start, Badri, by introducing you, by saying a little bit about yourself and what you do for about 20 seconds. And then the others.
Yeah, thank you, Padma. Thank you, Muthu and others at IITM for organizing this. So I'm Badri. I'm an economist. I'm based in Seattle. Yeah, it's actually midnight, not 2 a.m., but still late. And I have a company called Infinite Sum Modeling. So I'm running it, and we work on several management consulting and public policy research and modeling, these kind of projects. And my area of work is on economic modeling and data science, data analytics for a wide range of strategy decisions. So I'll take a pause here and come back later.
Great. Maybe the next person, Darshana.
Sure. Thank you. So I'm actually, my background is in technology and real estate. I'm a master's in software sciences, worked in various countries across the globe, and eventually settled here in India. I am now the partner and CEO in a blockchain startup. The company's been around for 3.5 years. And before that, about 10 years of real estate, 12 years of IT. I'm an angel investor in a few companies. And the idea is to actually get into a startup, start from scratch and scale it to a point where it would make me proud.
Great. Maybe Vivek could go on next.
Hi all. So thanks for having me on this panel. I am Vivek with Cellstrat, and I run an AI startup. So we are an AI research lab basically. So we do advanced research in artificial intelligence. And so we have a business vertical is a training division, but we also have a product stack on the cloud. And we are very passionate about AI and hope to do some disruption by grooming manpower as well as developing world-class products in this space. Thank you.
Fantastic. And I think Krishna Rastogi next, right? And then Dr. Sarthak.
Sure.
So myself, I've been working on health tech, medtech space for almost 6-7 years. It started with a binocular device at MIT, which technically takes a retinal image without the need of a technician or a doctor. It's worked on a principle of light field displays, and then I worked on ear imaging device. After that, moved to a space of how you deploy ML model on a constrained environment. So basically, how you deploy your ML model in a small edge device. And that leads to my learning to learn federated learning. Federated learning is architecture to train model on the edge without taking the raw data. And all with that, I also spent some time implementing meta learning architectures on edge devices. Right now, I'm working at Association of Data Sciences, which we conduct workshops to train some of the advanced topic to aspiring data scientists, and also we conduct you can say assessment courses for them to know what skill set they need to upskill over time, and they can come back. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. And Dr. Sarthak?
Yes, hi everyone. So I'm Dr. Sarthak. I have done my PhD in management, not a clinical doctor, just to clarify. And I introduce myself generally as what do I do for a living is I make babies. By that, I mean we run a chain of fertility centers across North India and Nepal. In around 10 cities in India as of now. Further to that, fertility is, as you know, a lifestyle disease. So we are not about fertility, but in general, I've been associated with a lot of health startups and a lot of players in health because what we have seen is there's a huge gap between technology and health. No matter how much you try to bridge doctors with technology, there is a broad difficulty in bridging that gap. And simultaneously, I've been associated with EHRs, EMRs, AI-related startups, blockchain-related startups, and I've been lucky to invest in a few and get good returns, being part of a lot of multiple angel networks. So I'm more here to talk about that how can we bridge this divide and how can we actually involve technology into healthcare, which is a difficult challenge. With COVID seeing, you can just see that how this challenge is actually real. Everything else is working, just that health is right now at a very precarious state with all hospitals suffering without the help of technology to help ease the situation. So that's about me.
Great. So everybody has had their round of introductions? Yes? Okay, great. So, we have two disparate topics. One is blockchain, which is something else entirely, and the other is ML, AI. So let's dispense with blockchain first. Is there anybody who's willing to go first to talk a little about how, end-to-end security of the transaction, end-to-end, identity of the transaction or the transactor, how that can be deployed in healthcare, including, let's say, supplies or patient records or something like that? Does anybody want to say a few words on that?
So I'll take that, Padma. Thank you. So a lot of hospitals or diagnostic centers have deployed their own systems, right? Hospital management systems or any small software that manages. Some are absolutely manual and have nothing. Now, with blockchain, it essentially is a distributed storage, right? It's a distributed network which connects multiple stakeholders. So now the question is, so in my presentation earlier, I presented that a platform, if it's created, right, that all of the stakeholders can get onto it. The question here is who creates this, right? Who actually creates and maintains this? Which stakeholder will take that? Will it be hospitals doing it? Will it be diagnostic centers, or will it be the regulator who will do it? Because patients are definitely not going to do it. So I think the divide that the bridge that Sarthak you're talking about, I think it's very important here. Technology-wise, as it is, we find that doctors and hospitals are reluctant to do that. One, because they think that their data is important and they don't want it to go out. And the second is the actual adoption of any technology, whether in a corporate or in a hospital, has to come from top down. Technology adoption has to come from top down. So these problems, if we're able to address, blockchain can definitely bring the security, the end-to-end transaction, I think the robustness for the data to say that yes, this is authentic, and give the patient his, autonomy to say that this is my data and whether I want to share it or not and how I want to protect it. So that's the role that blockchain can play in this whole thing.
Doctor, would you like to comment not on the patient side, but let's say on the supply side? So, for example, ensuring that the supply of the the products that are coming in are validated and, authentic sourcing, etc. Or anybody else, if they want to comment. Because logistics also can, use blockchain significantly.
Yes, if I may just add that, yes, with blockchain, it's as she explained that it's a decentralized ledger, and currently with everyone, we have got a lot of apps and data out there that can manage patient records and that can manage everyone health records out there, but there's a trust issue which is only being solved by blockchain. It has to be an interoperable electronic health record that has to be made through blockchain. Any person having their own private key, like a pen drive or something, in which their health record is stored, which can be shared across multiple cities, multiple countries, multiple diagnostic chain, or a hospital, or an Ayurvedic practitioner can get all that access to data. And that is only possible through blockchain because it is interoperable. It is collaborative that can be easily accessed by anyone and everyone if the key
Okay,
allows it.
that's great. I just wanted to correct stamping or authentic and so on. There is a role to play also in the information that precedes and succeeds the logistics chain. But I think you answered part of it, so we will let it go at that. Does either Krishna or Badri, do they want to say anything about blockchain?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
In healthcare.
So I think one is the ledger, and the other thing that I think what from an implementation point of view, or from the point of view making it a production level, the compute power required for the blockchain ledger still needs a big horsepower. So which indirectly says that when you want to deploy a key that are going to get deployed, and over time many people is going to use it, it's going to be more power consuming. So if that is not the constraint, then blockchain is really going to help in many scenarios. Yeah.
So one aspect I wanted to mention was the pharmaceutical supply chain. I think Darshana also mentioned this in her previous presentation. There are two things in which healthcare sector can benefit in this. One is provenance of drugs, so the drug quality, identifying counterfeits, these kind of aspects.
Yes.
The second thing is the doctors, the healthcare professionals, they can also see foresee the changes that are happening in the supply chain. So if there's some shortage coming up in the future, by using the blockchain based supply chain tracking, they can have some early warning, and then they can adjust it. So that is one thing. So these are some applications. In terms of challenges, I wanted to just raise one issue, which I've worked with several blockchain startups working on different issues. One major aspect is like interoperability that Darshana also mentioned, and the other thing is the willingness of the supply chain players to be transparent and collaborate. I think that is a major issue. Blockchain at the end of the day is a technology. It again boils down to the behavior of the participants of the technology, or the users of the technology, to make it effective. So the examples that I gave and others we discussed, they can be only effective if all the people involved in the supply chain, they're willing to take up blockchain and participate. So
That's an excellent point, Badri, and it really points to one thing, that blockchain basically also requires some degree of centralization, even if it's through cooperative means.
So it does.
And the ability to supply us, to support a centralized ledger. And somebody else pointed out the energy aspects. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So how much time do we have, Muthu?
Ma'am,
It's fine. It's fine. It's no problem because this is the last panel. You carry on. No problem. It even runs 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
All right.
No issue.
So do you
Maybe
feel we have adequately exhausted the possibilities of blockchain? Because today I don't see it being deployed much in healthcare. I think we're still groping around for use cases. And as Badri pointed out and everybody else has pointed out, it's, really getting people to come together and support the cost of a centralized ledger
So,
or
Padma,
ledgers.
I think that in terms of adoption in India, if you look at it, uh, almost all of the large pharma companies have looked at or commissioned a POC to look at the possibility of the supply chain, right, to do provenance of the drugs. That's one. Second, as far as healthcare records are concerned, all of the larger players that are present have deployed some kind of a patient record system, which they're looking to now blockchain enable. So we are working with a lot of these companies who already have a system which they're now looking to blockchain enable. As far as the HMIS is concerned, like the larger footprint of how a regulator maybe can bring the whole thing together, Government of Maharashtra has commissioned a project called HMIS, which they are looking to deploy soon and blockchain enable it. That actually brings all of the hospitals and diagnostic centers together. So somebody like a regulator like that would be able to maybe bring this whole consortium together. So the conversations are in advanced stages. So when we are saying that the adoption is yet to happen, it's not very far off. It's fairly in the near future.
That's very good news. Thank you. Thank you for that update. Okay. So should we move on to AI and ML? I mean, there's multiple uses, but mostly I see imaging, being used. Imaging is the area that I see most AI and ML being used, but there's also particular other areas.
Right.
So shall we start talking about that?
So
Maybe doctor, you would like to kick that off? I don't know if you're using it in any of your fertility, for example,
Yes.
let's say images of the.
So, as you rightly said, mostly AI is being used as of now for particularly for imaging perspective, either in MRI scans or in any other type of scans, just to recognize what the kind of disease was, and you don't require a doctor intervention to diagnose it. Similarly, in our field, when we're choosing the embryos, while it's a manual intervention that the embryologist sees and looks at the embryo quality, that is being done through AI to choose the best quality of embryo, because there are a lot of images that have been fed into the AI engine, which sees the growth of the embryo and then removes the embryologist perspective and tells which embryo is of the best quality to be implanted back into the woman. So I believe that yes, AI as an engine where computer imaging is being used works really well because there's a lot of data. But there has to be more applicability of artificial intelligence apart from the imaging perspective. The doctor-patient interaction, healthcare pharmaceutical chain, the pharma supply chain, the clinical trial applicability, things that takes multiple years for anything, for a drug to be launched, that has to be solved through artificial intelligence. And that is where a lot of few startups which I'm interacting with are trying to solve that. How can we get all of this? COVID is a prime example. If we had data, or if we could figure, if intelligence was there, that how could the spread of the disease, or how could certain medicines, or how could remdesivir or oxygen supply, so many issues out there which could have been solved if there was the right application done with the right sort of data.
Let's pick one. You mentioned several. The doctor-patient interaction.
Yeah. So
do you have any specific thoughts on that?
Yes, it has always been, India as a country has that scenario where they want to physically meet the doctor, and only then they get, be happy about it. And then they're extremely exclaimed, unless they can do a lot of phone consultation, they can do a lot of other time forms of teleconsultation, but they want to see. And AI can only help when all the sensory things which a doctor gains from his experience, from all the 10, 15, 20 years of their physical experience, the touch, the pulse, the breathing capability, and all of that, the AI engine can only do its best prognosis when it has that much amount of data, that much amount of experience. Just through a camera, if you're going to do an eye diagnosis, it won't be of much help because you're not able to see all the other parameters and you're not able to see the in-depth analysis what a doctor sees personally. So for us, when we are trying to make AI solutions for any kind of particular disease, either dental or ophthalmology or ENT, we have always faced this challenge that where do we see the whole futuristic aspect? The breathing patterns, the pulse, those are already common perspectives. We need to go more in depth to understand and actually do a proper prognosis.
Okay. So maybe Badri, then Krishna, then Darshana in that order. You all can comment on this.
Yeah, I think apart from the imaging, like Dr. Bakshi also mentioned, the patient-doctor interaction is very important. On this, this can be either telehealth services which are getting a lot of prominence nowadays, or it could also be patient monitoring technologies where we can have the patients can have some sensors and using IoT and cloud linked with AI, one can actually do a lot of analytics on how the patient is doing, do some kind of k-means clustering to cluster those patients with others who are similar, and then come up with some recommendations. Those kind of things are also quite possible. They're already happening. There's some startups that are doing that. And then another aspect is predictive and personalized healthcare, which is kind of related to what I said. But people have been developing just like how we forecast other things. We can also forecast based on your current body conditions, doing a deep dive of what is happening to your body. They can, even if you're all right, perfectly all right now, how are your different organs going to function in the next few years or next at least 2 years, and come up with some personalized recommendations based on that. That's another thing that is being quite prominent, and that can be the big future aspect. Then one important aspect when it comes to AI is explainability. So we have a lot of predictive power, but one thing that AI professionals struggle with is like to think about the why and how of it, rather than what of it. What is very clear, but what about why and how? And this also relates to one challenge, another challenge, that is who is accountable if we are rapidly going in this direction. If anything, any failure happens, who is accountable? The technology provider, or the healthcare personnel, or even the patient? Patient is like not using following the instructions properly. So who is liable? Who is accountable? So that's a question that is for the regulators to answer. But I think that also needs to be thought about in this context.
Adding to that, I think one is the patient doctor interaction and the data. But I think just sharing some hands-on experience and the time that I spend with mentoring few startup and understanding their pain points. So one is I think there is a gap between the data scientists who understand data in some way, and then their focus is more on the model development. But here and there, as Dr. Sarthak also suggested, that it's more on the data side. Like the data scientist needs to understand from more core from the data centric approach than a model centric approach. That is point number. Point number two, I think the bigger problem in healthcare, what I felt and realized, is also that um, the ability to control the data and who owns the data is being a long time discussion, and how you use this data. Is the data is okay to use this for research, for production model, or training the production model? That become a very big problem here and there. So to solve, I think there are few approaches that being implemented by top-notch companies, Google or Apple or any other Siemens company. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to come up with this approach of training on the edge. So basically all the data that is stored on iOS today on A12 chip, it's trained on the phone itself using the Core ML architecture. Having said that, what I am also trying to say that moving forward, the smartphone or the all the complex computation can be very handy. Like they come in a very small form factor with all the new chip that is coming in market. Like we have chip design only for AI computation. They are not CPU, GPU. They are altogether different architecture, different silicon that's going to come. So I think the approach that I learned or I feel is one is to find out the right approaches to what type of problem statement that we are going after, and also to how we solve that with the upcoming technology, which we have the focus for next 3 years, 5 years kind of approach. Yeah, that's from my side. Yeah.
So I actually have a question. With AI remote diagnosis, especially for India, with the remote centers not having doctors, not having access to healthcare, no hospitals in that area, there are a lot of these, tele kind of consultation that's going on. But can this be made available to them, where I don't know whether through IoT devices or whatever, like some amount of uh, diagnosis can be done by these AI bots or whatever?
Yeah, just to answer that, so there is definitely possibility because I myself worked on a deploying model on a you can say Jetson family or RK339 architectures. So basically, deploying ML model on a small hardware. The beauty of this type of architecture is they are all in iterative learning. So what does that mean is we are training the model on the device itself. So even without having internet, we can train the model and it iteratively over time get very you can say optimized for that geography also. But so this is something that we are also trying to solve. So there is a big problem that for a certain geography, one prominent abnormality or a condition is very dominant. Like let's say diabetes is more dominant to one state, but that is not dominant to other state. So what happens that in your mild DR, you have more cases mild DR, but there is no severe DR. But in some states, you have more severe DR. So the imbalance of data, to solve imbalance of data, we also have this approach of, you can say, training the model on severe DR one model and then do an ensemble modeling to get the best resultant output. So that is possible for remote monitoring as well. There, and if I may answer the question. Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is Vivek. I'll just add to some thoughts I had on this topic. So uh, I think all very pertinent discussions so far. I agree fully. And I feel that actually I used to run a pure health tech startup before my current AI efforts, and a marketplace similar to Practo. So we were aggregating doctors and pathology labs and hospitals. So we used to do clinical consultations online many years back, as well as home bookings for blood tests and so forth, or preventive health checks. So what we found was that when it was related to business aspects by scheduling clinical consultations or preventive checks at home with phlebotomist, it was working fine. But technological adoption by doctors and healthcare there was a resistance. And it's with all due respect to doctors, so they are very busy and they are very there are a lot of patients in India and very few doctors, so that ratio is not good. So doctors are really busy, so they really want to be helped and not be disrupted per se. So they were resistant to tech because they didn't see any meaningful technology which could augment their capabilities or provide a better equitable, and it's coming in an extremely big way. So what we did not see ever, now in next 5 to 10 years we'll see extremely heavy technological disruption of healthcare, and even the healthcare community will take it up, I'm sure. There's a lot of cross training needed. The tech industry, the AI folks have to learn about healthcare and be mentored about it, and vice versa, because both units, tech and healthcare, have been operating in their silos, and that bridge has to be crossed, as Dr. Sarthak was saying. So that would need a lot of cross training, education and trust among the two communities, and a really research mindset and sort of a patient capital is needed to actually find a lot of adoption. But the technological disruption of healthcare is inevitable. that goes without saying. And the COVID has certainly demonstrated that without tech, we don't have a solution to such kind of pandemics and many other problems which are prevalent. So those are my thoughts, among others.
Padma ma'am, do you want to take the next question?
I think she's not there. Since if all the panelists want to just give their views on any other way AI or ML or blockchain in healthcare can be deployed for the common.
Let's not do that. Let's take the questions from the box.
Yeah.
There are questions in the panel which I'd like to read out. Yeah, read out.
Okay, I'll read the first one. There is one which says, how can two
Yes, sir. I'll take up the
question.
questions.
Can you read out the
Yes.
questions?
Yes, sir. I'll take up the questions from the chat box. The first question is how to handle patient clinical data, sharing and data privacy with respect to AI, ML, and blockchain.
So I think as far as blockchain is concerned, the data, once it goes on blockchain, it is in a cryptographic, it is hacked, so it's not readable anyways. And as far as hacking, I saw one more question. As far as hacking blockchain is concerned, once it goes on the node, right? Unless you can target all the nodes at the same millisecond with the same, with the exact key, it's not hackable. Now, the data that resides with the hospital, like blockchain doesn't keep any of the hospital data, right? So their records need to be secured with safety standards within, let's say if it's on a computer or wherever, like in a document management system, then that needs to be secured at the location itself. That does not come on chain. So any of the data on chain is secure, but off-chain data needs to have its own security that can be designed as part of the on-chain, off-chain system that you create.
Okay, very good. Padma, are you there? Padma, are you there? Because we can't hear you. You're on mute, but I can see you. You're on mute. So do you want to unmute yourself?
Better?
Yeah, so there's questions in the chat box which I asked to take, so maybe we can
No,
taking them.
fine. I got Please go ahead, Muthu.
Yeah.
I think there were a lot of questions. I think let people pick them up and answer them.
Yeah, because my line dropped out, so most of the questions are not on my chat box. So somebody who is
Yes, sir. I'll take up the questions. Yes, sir. I'll take up. Yes, I'll take up the questions. So the next question is from Sishir Kumar. Citizens are lacking basic healthcare supports in rural, semi-urban settings. How these technologies can empower rural healthcare without compromising on data safety and privacy?
I think Darshana just mentioned about data security and privacy, that with blockchain, a lot of your data is secured. As a person or citizen, you are empowered with your data rather than anyone else. The hospital doesn't have your data, the diagnostician would not have your data, the government would not have your data. It's completely decentralized and controlled by you. That's why the adoption of blockchain isn't been easy and requires a lot of effort. So if you're talking about purely data privacy and security, blockchain is one of those methods in which it becomes almost impervious to hacking and impervious to your data being stolen. But the challenges are with the adoption of blockchain and keeping and getting all the players onto a common platform to store that data.
So I want to add a quick point on this, the rural situation, particularly rural healthcare. So we basically did a study with McKinsey that was published on the next normal in the healthcare sector globally. So here we discussed some of these issues and we did some modeling. So what we found was that the extent of productivity uptake or the efficiency improvement that can happen in the healthcare sector because of all these technologies, AI, ML, blockchain, and so on, that can be so prominent that it can boost the not only the urban people, the healthcare in urban sector, but also in the rural and semi-urban sector that you mentioned. Because it's all about increasing efficiency, reducing costs, and so on. So whatever we talk about, we may come up with many different use cases, many different explanations technically, but at the end of the day, they lead to reducing costs, increasing efficiency. And that is going to affect, that is going to positively impact a lot of lives. So the rural healthcare sector would definitely be positively impacted by this. So that's a thing I wanted to mention. And because I think the question had two angles. One is data safety and privacy that has been adequately addressed already, and this I completely understand the link between there's always a question of whenever we talk about technologies, we think they're good in an urban setting, in a kind of middle class and richer kind of families kind of setting. What about the poorer people, and what about the rural? And that is where what I just mentioned might come into picture, because this cost reductions, efficiency improvements, they can really matter for the rural infrastructure.
Adding to that, I think something that can be quickly adopted to the current AI/ML architecture is some of the approaches as preferential differency, homomorphic encryption. Some of the homomorphic encryption, like Palisade and all, they are being developed for DARPA. So technically, the claim they have is it's post-quantum unbreakable. So even a quantum machine cannot break that. So homomorphic encryption, the way it works is it encrypts the data and the model while training, and only at the inference state, it gives you the result. So in that way, it can be a full end-to-end pipeline that can be adopted very easily. It's basically a mathematical algorithm that is sitting on your server, encrypts the data, encrypts the model, you train it, no data privacy loss. So that is one approach. The other is the differential privacy, which basically talks about adding a kind of a noise to your data. Again, the problem in this case is you need to budget your privacy and or the accuracy that you are looking for. So in many cases, the differential privacy is not a very, you can say, an ideal way, but many implementations we have today in our mobile, and some of the deployed architectures, they are using differential privacy for that reason.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, are there any more questions?
Yes, ma'am. We do have a couple of questions.
Why don't you read them out for everybody?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. So the next question is for Dr. Sarthak. So his question: can AI be used in predicting success rate of IVF as a result of number of cycles depending on mother's age?
As I said earlier, that yes, AI can be used in predicting the success rate or the quality of the embryo, not the success rate particularly, but it is more important than the fact that we figure out what the best embryo is. So if I have to probably tell you more about how the embryos are made and their quality, only then we can decipher that the quality of the embryo. So since we would have a lot of images of embryos, we can, with all that data, we can figure out what can be done and what can be done to figure out the best quality of the embryo. So with that data, as the embryo goes from a single cell to a multi-million cell, we capture all that data and see how the growth of the embryo take place. So capturing from growing an organism from a single cellular stage to multi-million, based on the timeline on how the embryo grows, we know that the growth of this embryo is the best, and hence this embryo, if implanted back into the woman, would yield the best result. So hence AI has a definite usage if we can figure out what can be the best quality of the embryo through AI. It can not be dependent upon the mother's age, but mother's age is a separate factor to figure out the quality of the oocyte, as you rightly said, and AI can be used to figure out the success rate, predictability of the chances of an IVF cycle success.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can use an odds ratio, a kind of calculation to hit that, because you would have generations of women who have been through your system and who have
True.
failed or who
Yeah.
have succeeded. And if you collected the data, you could probably build a model, and you'd have to
Yeah.
keep improving the model.
Sure.
Okay. Vivek?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't hear you speak this time.
Yeah, so with computer vision, of course, we can do amazing AI, value addition to the problem statement of good embryo selection. So if it is, as long as it's available as an image or some kind of data set, we can assist in that in a fairly accurate way. I think AI is becoming very sophisticated now, so increasingly these kind of solutions will be possible. And in fact, I don't think healthcare community has any choice but to adopt, because there is no, we don't have enough healthcare professionals. So we have to augment and scale, public medical medicine with AI technology. I don't think there is an option anymore. You can see that in the current scenario as well. We are not going to ever train enough healthcare professionals, so we have to augment with AI capability. And fortunately, AI is reaching where it's becoming very sophisticated with radiology, with all kinds of radio scans, or like the rural case was mentioned before. I wanted to add that you can augment it with vernacular language translations, right? Because India doesn't just have English patients in the rural area, so you need vernacular language translation support. You need to bring the specialist for oncology and other specialized treatments for rural patients. NLP or speech AI, or remote diagnosis with AI, I mean, these are inevitable. It's just we have to solve for the whole solutioning and adoption and training of the whole supply chain of professionals.
Any other questions in the box we can take, or Padma can carry on otherwise?
Yes, sir. So a couple of questions. So which data should be kept on chain and which off chain? And a follow up to that, in India, there is any commercial blockchain which can be used to keep patient data. So these questions from Umesh.
I'll take a couple of these. So there are some startups who are working on this. There's a startup called Call Health in Hyderabad. There is one which is a chain trail, again, which is enabling different providers. But a lot of the hospitals or even insurance companies actually that are bringing the hospitals onto the platform are creating their own personal platform. One, more so because they don't want to share their data. That fear of having your data go on to somebody else's network and your competitor being on the same network, that has been a big pain point. So the larger chains are actually creating their own networks. So they have their own insurance companies connect to their network, their own systems connecting to this network, and they're creating these private blockchains which they are using. But there are, like for companies that want to use a platform available, I think these two you may want to look at either Chain Trail or Call Health. And as far as on-chain and off-chain, I think, that's a decision that you may have to take. Like for example, if there's a medical license that you're putting on blockchain, right? So I wouldn't put the PDF of that license on blockchain. The name, the year, the certain of these, parameters actually get created into a hash, and that hash goes onto blockchain. So how much data you really want on there, does all of it need to go in there in terms of how it can be protected from fraud? So you don't really need to put the whole data in there. So the PDF stays off chain and the hash goes on chain.
Yeah, ma'am. So we have done the question in the chat box. So over to Padma ma'am for the proceedings.
So, I mean, I think everybody has given a really good glowing picture of the future. I mean, right from the imaging example on AI/ML, of course, we all know very well. And some of you, I think, particularly elaborated the use of blockchain, and the very good news that it's actually being, I think Darshana did that it's actually being deployed in pharma companies. I did expect it. Hospitals, I'm a little still uncertain that, whether they do it or not, but that's great to know. So that's very good. And looks like we, are set to go. I hope the audience was happy.
Yes,
If you
ma'am.
have any questions, you can always send them mail them in later to Muthu, and he will get them to be answered.
Yes, ma'am. So,
and we seem to be finishing on time.
Yeah, ma'am, we are finishing on time. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Padma ma'am, for the wonderful moderation. And thank you all the panel members for sharing your insights and taking us through technologies in healthcare. Thank you both moderators and the panel members for giving us this wonderful panel discussion. Thank you all.
Right.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So with that, we have come to the end of today's conclave activities. So with that, on the behalf of IITM HTIC Medtech Incubator, I would like to thank each and everyone who has made efforts and supported in bringing this HTIC Healthcare Conclave together. I would like to thank our faculty in charge, Dr. Mokashankar Sivaprakasham, for always being a pillar of support. I wish to express my gratitude to Dr. Sishendu Mukherjee, Mission Director, Grand Challenges India, for sparing his time with us this morning and for addressing the conclave gathering in such a short notice, as Dr. Manish Diwan is unwell with COVID-19. We wish him a speedy recovery and we missed him today. Big thank you to Dr. Chaya Chawan, Manager Incubation from BIRAC. Not only a support to all the Bionist incubators, but getting Dr. Sishendu Mukherjee today to deliver a brilliant keynote address. I must mention a deep sense of appreciation for the moderates of the panel discussion, Ms. Padma Chandrasekharan and Ms. Deepanvita Chatropathi, and the panel members, Ms. Poini Bhatt, Mr. Mutunjar Sir, Dr. Taslim Arif Said, Dr. Jitendra Kumar, Dr. N. Madhusudana Rao, Dr. Satak Bashi, Mr. Batin Narayan Gopalakrishnan, Mr. Vivek Singhal, Ms. Darshana Padmar Jain and Mr. Krishna Rastogi for kindly accepting our invitation and for sharing their valuable insights and experience with us. I would like to thank our speakers for the expert session, Mr. Vivek Singhal and Mr. Darshana Padmar Jain, for taking us through the insightful expert session on AI and blockchain in healthcare, and last minute agreeing to be part of the panel, as again Mr. Vikas Sharma has unwell with COVID-19. We wish him a speedy recovery. I would also like to congratulate all the 4 startups, C3 Medtech, Ubicare Health Private Limited, Mosiro Health Solution, and Zasti, for making great demonstration and also showing support by being a part of this conclave. I also extend my sincere thanks to my colleagues, Sumitra and Harshini, for their numerous effort and coordination in bringing up this virtual event. Finally, we must acknowledge our CEO, Mr. Muthu Singaram, for being a driving force in curating this conclave and giving us this opportunity to successfully conduct this virtually. So next conclave will be in July. We shall give you plenty of warnings then. Till then, thank you all. Thank you for all the members who made this conclave very successful, running it virtually.